Welcome, BBCers, to episode number 200 of the Broken by Concept podcast, the number one solo queue educational and motivational podcast. Curtis, in discussion for our plans, our preparation for this episode, we said, what could we do? We're going to do something different. This podcast, at the end of the day, we've been exploring over the last 199 episodes, the rank journey, mindset, solo queue philosophy. We've done case studies, looking at people's tools, and we've been running our programs, for coming up 4 years. And this podcast is almost 4 years as well. And we thought, what better way than to get some of our hardened, seasoned, veteran MLA, Soul Tours players, people that we've had. Curtis and I, we've done brutal review sessions, many ended reviews. Let's get them on, share wisdom to the community here, or maybe not wisdom, maybe just the realities of the boring rank journey.
Yeah, totally. I think, well, first of all, thank you everyone for taking the time out of your day or night to come on board. It's awesome to put a face to everyone's name, because we talked to a lot of you guys in the Discord and everything, but seeing the face, I think, matters. I mean, it's a game changer. And I think also what a lot of people don't understand, I think, when we're doing each and every week in BBC or when we're doing our coaching throughout the week, we evolve as coaches and in terms of our podcast because of the work that we do with you guys. And so ultimately everything we do is because it's like a two-way conversation. It's not just we teach you. You guys teach us all the time. I learn things every single day from all of you. And so I think it makes sense to do this sort of episode. I don't know where it's going to go. We have some prompts, but again, it probably could go on a tangent. We'll see how we go. But yeah, excited to get into it.
So yeah, we're not going to do we'll do the introductions will sort of come through these prompts. The way that we're structuring this episode for the audience, the listeners, is that we have 11 questions that we're going to be going through, and they're sort of like prompts, and we'll just talk about it, share our experiences. Again, as Curtis said, if we go on a tangent, we can go on a tangent. So we'll do our first one up here. Hopefully everyone in the call can see the screen. First question here. What is something you thought was important when it comes to climbing, but wasn't really at all? And this could be before your perception of when you just started playing League. It could be after you joined the Midland Academy or the Soul 2 Jungle program. It could be something you maybe figured out recently. So you guys can take some time to think. I mean, what are some examples here? So for you and I, what do you think this would have been for you maybe before, 10 years ago when we started?
Yeah, I mean, we'll kick it off to get it going. I mean, look, okay, I would say first things first. I mean, look, Nathan, I think for me and you, we were so focused on the in-game components. And I think the big one I would say was, screw mental. I mean, there wasn't even really a discussion about mental. I mean, at least for us, it was more like, you just got to be good. Just get good at the goddamn video game and let the rest, our philosophy, I guess, Nathan, correct me if I'm wrong, was more so be so good at the game that you don't even have to worry about all the crap outside the game. But I think what we realized is that's not really the way it works at all. And your outer game is equally important to your in-game. And look, that if you told me that, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I would have said, get the hell out. I don't believe you. That's bullshit. You're just, my elitist take would have been, you're just bad at the game. That's why you're saying that. And, that was a tough pill for me to swallow and to really come to that conclusion. So I would say that's the first thing for me.
Reviewing was an alien concept 10 years ago. Reviewing a game for Curtis and I was like just any pro player. Like, coaches weren't really a thing back in season 3, season 4. They'll just sort of come into light. Like, literally we didn't really have many tools, to be fair, to actually review a game compared to now. But like, the idea of someone recording their game and bringing it up and looking at it was just mind-boggling. And that's obviously just so normal and what we do every single day for years at this point. So anyone want to start with this? What's something important they thought when it comes to...
Let me jump in. I muted first.
Go for it.
Go ahead.
I think the concept of 1v9ing. I thought I had to 1v9 every single game. And it kind of aligned with the champions that I play. For listeners, I play Aurelia. I used to play Casio, especially when I first joined the MLA. Just these really in my head, hyper carries. Like, I'm the one that the game state revolves around, I will 1v9 it. It doesn't matter if my bot lane feeds. It doesn't matter if my top lane feeds. And then, of course, when it does happen and I'm unable to carry, I'm just left with so much frustration. So that was something that I really had to untie myself from as a concept.
I think to go off that, something similar for me was like feeling like I had to learn how to be a playmaker when really a lot of the game really feels like just all you do is you just do the simple stuff, pressure people's mental stack, and then wait for them to fuck up and take advantage. It's a lot more punishing windows of opportunity than it is like trying to force things yourself, because it's like you just like leave yourself up to way less risk if you kind of make them make mistakes for you.
I'm actually going to spin this in the complete opposite direction and say something I thought was super important was that it's a team game when it comes to climbing, but that's just not important whatsoever, right? Because it's a solo journey when it comes to climbing, even if you have a team in your solo queue matches.
Why do you think, Kaiser, people struggle with this concept of... I've actually saw a bunch of comments recently this last week saying League's a team game. And voice... You know what the people say? Voice comms will solve all problems in League. I literally have said that.
God, no.
This week. So why do you think people struggle, Kaiser?
Well,
why do you struggle personally?
I struggle personally because it's so easy to see other people's mistakes, right? And it's so hard to focus on your mistakes when you're playing these games. And a lot of people, like... You play 3 games, that's a 3-hour stretch of time. That is a huge commitment, right? And so a lot of people don't have just this kind of ability to think like long term, like over 800 matches. The only factor that's going to be in these games is going to be me, right? And so it's really easy to get tilted and be like, oh, this is a team game. My team is inting, so I'm not climbing. I think that's the biggest part of it.
I was just going to flow on from that. I think as well, something I've noticed is that, you know, being very dynamic in the way you view things, like something that we say a lot on the BBC is this idea that, you know, everything lives in the gray area. You have not everything's black and white. So they both exist. Your team will lose you games. You do have a lot of control, but like both exist. And, you know, so I think reconciling, it's like coming to the idea that like, we want everything to just be so neat and tidy. We want that beautiful formula. We want that beautiful one size fits all solution that's going to comply to every situation. But the reality is why we always say, let's get into the details, is that it could be what might work for you one game may not work for another game. And your teammate will int you in this game and you will get trolls in that game, but not in that game. You know, so it's like this idea that like they both exist. And you have to be okay with that. You have to understand that actually exists. And that really does people's head in, because it's just dynamic. It's just uncomfortable. You know, it's really, really hard to reconcile.
Yeah, kind of a different, maybe one kind of overrated and one underrated within the same vein is, I think, KDA specifically. I thought that having a good KDA, having a lot of kills. I used to play stuff like Katarina, Hecarim, so I'd have like 14 kills and 2 deaths, and I was like, wow, I'm doing incredible. Like, why am I losing every game, right? But then one thing that was really hard for me to realize is that I have 14 kills, but that one death, literally that one death at 30 minutes, even though my KDA says 14-1, that one death is why I lost the game. And like, that is something that's so hard for me to, like, was so hard for me to understand. I feel like it's still hard for a lot of people to understand. It's just, you know, the KDA doesn't really say the full story without the actual context of the game. And I think that just looking at the KDA is super, super overrated when seeing whether you did well or whether you didn't do well in a game.
I remember, Ishan, you telling me that all you did was watch montages all day. You thought that watching a montage and just looking at how do I kill people in fancy ways is what wins games. But then you come to realize, you know, Kirsten, I always say, winning league games, I guess it sort of depends a little bit what champion you're playing, but it's really boring. The fundamentals, like just last hit in, just get into your camps on spawn as a jungler. Like, it's not sexy. Even recently, I've been working on a Diana guide, and I've been working with Perry on this, and you have the idea of like flash, like R flash or Q flash, but we realized we looked at our games, just straight up looked at our games. We don't do it like maybe once in every like 10 games. It's just like these like fancy combos and stuff like that. They're actually not that practical if you're just doing good timing and actually being smart with your ability usage.
Yeah, I would say for me, I probably wasted a lot of time pre-Saltu, like chasing flavor of the month like meta. This was like back years ago when like Vi was considered like bad in solo queue. I was like under the impression that as like a Vi OTP, I was like hard stuck in Emerald because I wasn't playing Udyr Hecarim back when that was like, the Udyr Hecarim like full clear meta, etc. So I just spent time over and over again like switching between champs and like wasting time ramping up on mastery, and then they would get banned or like nerfed to the ground because of the meta, and then the cycle would just keep going on. And once I like kind of just accepted that you can get challenger with a lot of champs and a lot of roles that aren't necessarily like the de facto one champ you're supposed to play or like set of 3 champs you're supposed to play, was like hard to come to terms with.
So when did that click, Logan?
I think somewhere in the first like couple of weeks of Sol 2, it was very humbling coming into reviews and basically just being like, yeah, what are you talking about? It's not because Poppy's a hard matchup for Vi. It's because 5 minutes ago you got your team doubled baiting them into like a dive or something like that. That was a lot of the like end of review stuff that would happen way before like the matchup things that I was convinced were what was losing the games.
I just thought of an interesting question for all of you. When you were coming into our programs and you're getting coaching for the first time, were there anything that Nathan and I said that, you really just weren't bought into, and that it was really hard for you to really, I guess, accept, but then over time you started to realize why we said that? Was there anything that, like, again, you found, just hard to resonate with?
Letting your teammates rot sometimes as a jungler, like understanding that like you sometimes just have to establish weak side, strong side, and like it sometimes doesn't matter that your Aurelia goes 0-9, like she gets cratered, it's fine. You have like a winning Draven, that kind of stuff. Like it just happens, and it's like I used to feel like so much stress about like managing my teammates' emotions and expectations as the jungler, because it's like, man, I really don't want my top laner to like run it down because they're pissed. But it's like, well, if they're a functional human being, eventually, like they'll probably start playing the game when they see Draven going and running the whole team down on his own. So it's one of those things.
Yeah, the mid lane version of that is
let them rot, Mott.
Yeah, the mid lane version of that being compensation plays, where coach told me like, no, you shouldn't rotate to help your team here. And I was like, why not? It's my team. I want to help them. But
you're so nice, bro.
You just need to. Thanks. No, you just need to play to make yourself strong sometimes and win cons.
To answer Curtis's question, you had, what was it? What was your first iteration, like pre-MLA? What was it, like Coaches Club or something?
Yeah, I think it was called Coaches Club, yeah.
I joined that when I was plat, and I thought it was all bullshit. I literally did. I came in. I remember using cringe, I think, in chat. You directly like corrected me, and I was like, fuck this, man. Fuck this place. I'm out. I hate everything. I don't believe in the process. I'm a good player. Watch, I'll hit diamond. I left the Coaches Club, and it took me like, I shit you not, it was like 1,500 games at 50 at 51% win rate. And I'm like, League is harder than I thought. And that's when Ras was like, hey, you want to give Midland Academy a try? It's something new that Curtis cooked up. And I'm like, maybe I need some help. So
So how did, out of interest, what brought you to join in the first place then? Because I find that so fascinating, because I've had so many people say that, where like, I don't even really think it's going to work, but you know what? I've heard other people say, and then they genuinely come in not even believing in coaching, or it's almost as if they come in to try and prove that it doesn't work.
Yeah, no, actually, that's exactly what I was about to say. I think it's like self-validation. It's like affirmation. They're looking for confirmation or affirmation of their own thoughts. It's like, oh, I already know everything there is to know about this game. I'm coming in with like a closed mind, specifically looking for reasons to not open it. And literally, that's what I did. I just left until I think it was like October and November 2021. I joined a few months earlier when you still had a Coaches Club up.
Yeah, right. Fascinating. Yeah, I mean, I think as well. It's like, it is a bit of like a defense mechanism as well, right? Because we just don't want to change sometimes. We don't want to change. We want it's uncomfortable to change. Sometimes we do want to just stay in the way, keep the same beliefs, you know.
I think you probably still run into clients like that, and you probably make a mental note, like, you know what, I can't change them. Like, even if you give case study and case study, person of people succeeding using the process, sometimes you got to let them sink.
And me and Nathan have actually spoken about this a lot, where like someone will only change when they want to change. Like and this has been a tough pill for me to swallow as well from a coaching perspective. Like the idea of letting someone hit rock bottom. Like I want someone. I sometimes I just say, this guy's just got to hit rock bottom. This guy's going to drop. He's going to drop. It's going to suck. He's going to be in a lot of pain. He's going to hate the game. But I can't sit here convincing you to do what I'm going to. You have to do what you're doing, fail, hate the game, and then either you quit, and that's fine, or you want to change and you come back. It's like I don't go chasing people anymore. It's like you do you. I'm here, but I can't force you to. No, I can't force you to change.
All right. Anything else for our first prompt here? Any other additions?
I do have one thing. When I started playing for a long time, like I was playing for 10 years or something in like silver, right, gold, that area, I thought I just wasn't naturally good at mechanics. I thought that was the only thing holding me back. So for me, it's natural talent. It's not nearly as important as I thought, because once I actually started getting the volume in, the quality, I did reviews and I actually watched myself. I'm like, oh, like I'm mechanically, I'm fine. I'm just like playing the game completely incorrectly. Right. I thought that I was like smart at the game and I played well, and I just couldn't hit every cue on Casio. Right. And that's the reason I was losing. But it wasn't. I was just naturally doing the wrong thing. And I thought I was like egoing, kind of saying, oh, I'm just, as a person, I'm not good enough at mechanics, as a human being. But that wasn't the case at all. Like, if you put the time into it, you're going to climb. And I just never had done that.
This episode is sponsored by mid.gg. Now, they've listened to your guys' feedback. The feedback that you guys gave was, where are all the Korean streamers? How can I watch Faker? How can I watch Chovy? How can I watch Deft?
I want to watch the best players in the world.
And they've listened, guys. They've listened. So now what they've done is they've integrated majority of the Korean pro players onto the platform. So here I can go ahead, type in Faker, and then boom, here I can already take a look at all of Faker's recent VODs. If I want to look at Chovy's VODs, I can click here, type in Chovy, boom, I'm already here looking at Chovy's POV VODs, which for those of you who have actually tried to find these VODs is actually a pain in the ass, and especially for streamers who are not already natively streaming on Twitch, who stream on a Freaker or some of these other kind of platforms, it's really, really hard to find them. So they've done a really great job of integrating these ones straight onto the mid.gg platform.
You can sort by champion, matchup here. As we can see, Chovy, obviously he's at MSI right now. So 2 weeks ago he streamed. He's been playing a bit of Aurelion Sol, Hui. You can look at his build runes. Everything's in here. Head over to mid.gg or link in description of this video. Download the app and get to learning some matchups. Love it. Number 2. During your time in our programs, was there a specific review or session that stood out to you? This could be like a personal review, or you listening in to someone else like Curtis and I just like scolding like another player that sometimes we do. What can you guys think of?
I can instantly think of one from MLA about 3 years ago, which everyone jokingly referred to as the Cameron Rice VOD, where at like 22 minutes, he just starts typing in chat, flaming his teammates. This is like a gold VOD. And coach just leans up to him. He stops the VOD for 4 minutes. He goes, "This is cringe. What you're doing is cringe. You can't talk like this. You can't, like, you were making so many other mistakes." And this was like near the beginning of me starting the MLA program. And I just sat there looking like, I'm going to turn off my chat because I agree with coach. I don't know as much as I think I am. And I'm just going to focus on myself. And that was like such a big thought for me for getting a good mental. And I think that was also around the time when I started actually seriously about reviewing because of that.
I think one that stands out for me, I think this was like a couple of months ago. we had like some review where I was trying to like explain my thought process for why I'm like trying to force XYZ gank. And I think Nathan was just like, every time I watch one of your reviews, it feels like you're trying to do like a calculus problem, like with the amount of like justification you're making for this idea. Like, League's not that complicated, like simplify it. And I think I went into the dojo for like a month after that, and that was the first time I hit masters. I was just like, oh yeah, I just simplify it as much as you can. Try to make fewer weird decisions that your teammates are like forced to play around because you're ruining the game, kind of thing.
Yeah, I actually haven't mentioned this for a while, but I've found, okay, this is a very general statement, but I found like the smarter you are in like real life, like we have a lot of like programmers and like software engineers and like, you know, all that sort of, the easier it is to make your journey harder than it has to be. You want it to be you actually are very good at convincing yourself about why you're this rank or like why you're struggling this game. But it's just like again, League is very sort of structured, especially from a jungle perspective. It's very structured, it's very simple, you know, good wave state, bad wave state. So yeah, I find that the really smart people actually struggle the most to climb in League.
So are you saying we're stupid, Nathan? Is that what you're trying to imply?
Yeah, so Kishan, you easy, like you climb to master no problem, so obviously you're incredibly stupid.
I've gathered you all here to call you stupid.
So yeah, that's what I've found. Like people are very good at creating narratives, or like trying to come up with a reason why, you know, this is they made this play or whatever.
I think.
Yep.
I have one.
Go for it.
Go ahead.
No, go for it.
Okay. So it was a while back. I hit like rock bottom, and I was playing this Gauntlet game. I was super stuck. I had no idea what to do. I came in, and then Curtis took a look at it. He's like, "Yeah, there's nothing I can tell you about this game. Just come back later." And I was kind of shocked by that.
In what way, Zach? What were you shocked by? You thought Curtis was going to say like, "This is the answer to this VOD," or like, why?
I thought he was going to give you some sort of like magic pill, like, "Yeah, this is what you had to do, and you're good to go." And he's like, "Nah, there's like nothing I can tell you." That just shocked me.
Yeah, I think one thing I think I've learned as a coach as well is that some people come in looking for a solution to win every single game. And sometimes my response is that, you know what, this is just a really hard game. You're not going to win this game. And, you know, that just completely shifts some people's perspective. It's like they want a solution to every single thing. It's like, no, yeah, this game's just actually really hard. You're actually just no point overthinking this game. Move on to the next one, you know. And that idea is mind-shattering to some people. And it actually took me a very long time, actually, just quickly talking on this, to actually employ this as a coaching technique. Like now I talk about it in terms of every game is on a difficulty scale of like 1 to 10. You know, and if someone brings in a 10 out of 10 difficulty game, there's no point sitting here analyzing all the little things that you could have done. It's like, dude, this is just an anomaly. You're going to lose this game. Let's move on. This is not the reason you're at your rank, you know? And I think that that was a really big game changer for me, you know?
Yeah. And I feel like flowing onto that. And then, yeah, I want to give Eleanor also a chance to share her experience. But I think one thing I realized, maybe touching on the first question as well, is that a lot of the VODs that I would bring in for review would be VODs where I felt really hopeless, or like my team is just getting destroyed and I just like, I'm getting invaded because I have no prio and I just like don't understand how I win the game. And then we'd be getting into like these really, you know, Nathan would maybe give me one like tiny thing that I could have done. And I feel like what I didn't realize is that I was focusing so much energy. And this was for, I think, a whole year where I basically made no progress. So I was focusing so much energy on VODs, which just, I could have just let myself lose. Whereas on the other hand, I was having games where I was losing at like level 1 because I was getting invaded by a blitzcrank and losing my flash or something. And like, I would never bring those VODs to review because I'd be like, oh, that's stupid. Like, I already know that's a mistake. And I would never review that. And so I totally agree with Curtis. I think that some games you just have to say, you know, you're going to lose these games. It doesn't mean there's nothing you could have done. There's probably some really small things you could have done, but sometimes it's better to just not focus on those and focus on the games where you had much more impact.
And kind of in like a similar vein for mine, it actually wasn't like one of my own reviews. It was, I'm in the Jungle Academy program as the mentor for Briar. And so there's this guy Felipe, great dude. He's a Briar player. I think he's still in Emerald right now. But it was the first of his VODs that I actually went over, and so like I had gotten like 20 or so reviews done between like Nathan and Perry at this point, and there was like some stuff that like wasn't clicking about like how you assess like your first 8 minutes, and then going over Felipe's VOD, he like had like 2 extra autos that he like pumped onto his Raptors and like 1 extra on his Krugs, and then because of that he was like late for a bot fight by like 4 seconds, still sends it anyways and dies. And it's just like he was trying to like problem solve some stuff in the mid game where it's like, oh, like I need to play this fight differently, or like I should have flashed here. It's like, no, like you just needed to be on time for the spot play. Because if you go back, it's like I think that a Jinjiao jungle and like the guy just snowballs and starts running away with the game, and it now becomes like a very, very challenging one for Briar to play. And it was just like it didn't like the whole idea of like early fighting and tempo and like just being at the right place at the right time like didn't really click for me. Until I like actually was on the other side of the VOD. And this is like actually like right before my master's run. So it was like the thing that just like clicked and like pushed me over the line. It was like understanding that early game importance.
So you think teaching the game, reviewing other people's VODs, not yourselves, actually accelerated your improvement?
Oh yeah, that was way more important for me than actually getting my own done to some degree. It was like once I hit a level of competency where I like kind of understood what was going on, then like you try to help people who don't really have any idea, and then you start to see the holes where like, oh, I need to learn about this. Oh, like this is something that's missing. Oh, like this is like a situation that like I've never run into, or like, oh, I've done this and I know like what the actual solution is, and it like helped organize my thoughts about the game.
Being a mentor in the MLA and seeing someone tag us with like a question, and I'm just sitting there trying to figure out how to answer is like such a big teaching moment as well.
I want
to be able
flow
to.
on from...
Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
No, go on, Dios. Go on, Dios.
Oh, I was just about to say, just like I completely agree with everyone. +1 to everyone, just in the sense that like you can't teach a concept if you don't know the concept, and so that's why me as well as a mentor in MLS now, MLA rebranded. I'm just so grateful for the clients that come through and give us all of these opportunities to learn as we teach. It's been really humbling. What's that?
Ask us hard questions.
Yes, please utilize it. It's an underutilized channel.
I wanted to flow on again, going back to Zach. Ishan have really good input on this as well about those putting the energy in the games that aren't really you should be problem solving. Like I really think about, you know, we have finite energy focus, and you can lose your mind focusing on the games where again maybe it was actually a big part of it was your teammates' fault. But this in terms of Curtis, in terms of our philosophy with reviewing a lot of games and getting people like why we don't believe in 1 hour flat out coaching sessions. Because what happens if Zach bring that VOD, and how guilty you and I would feel as coaches, especially in our early days. Okay, we told this person, don't worry about this game. Like, all right, well, I just paid you. Like,
yeah,
no.
That was a massive game changer. Like, I know. Look, I get emails all the time from people getting pissed off that I don't do one-on-one coaching anymore, like privately. But like, it's like I'm saving you money. You're gonna come in and you're gonna bring some shit VODs. I've only got 2 or 3 things to comment here, and yeah, but like, I'm not gonna take 200. I'm not gonna take your money for this. I can't do that. And so, like, I think, Nathan, like the structure of the MLA and Sol2 and this whole idea of like people coming in every 3 weeks and other people being able to tune in and having shorter reviews, it just made the quality of the learning just so much better, you know, and it just saves people money. It saves people time. It's just such a better experience. And that's like been a massive, it's been a game changer. It's just an absolute game changer.
Yeah, it's just the reality, you know, we play so many games and you have to learn how to lose. No one's running around. Even the best players in the entire world, like your challenger player, like playing in Emerald, like they are going to lose an Emerald game, you know? There's very few people that can literally go through 100% where in Emerald and even Diamond, right? Which is a lot of the reviews that we're doing, right? So if a rank 1 player can't win a game in that specific game, why are we trying to problem solve this, you know? We only need just above a 50% win rate to have a really comfortable journey. So that's really hard thing to grasp. And again, as Ishan said, it's like people aren't focusing on all the games where they're just making end of review after end of review mistake, and they're just like ignoring those games where that's actually what they should be putting the most energy and time into.
Yeah, that concept kind of blew my mind because I remember that VOD, and Kirk's like, "This is a really hard game. Even if I went in there, I wouldn't be able to win." Or you said it'd be really difficult. I'm like, wait, but he's challenger. Shouldn't that just be an easy game for him? Because it was like Victor's. It's like multi-threat. I still remember that because I used to think every game you could win if you were good enough. So if you
Yeah,
just
no,
lost,
that's
it's
so
bad.
big. That is actually so big as well. People have this. Okay, I love that you mentioned that because that belief is simultaneously incredibly helpful, but again, it's one of those gray areas. The belief that you can go in and potentially win this game is obviously very helpful, right? You don't want to go into the game thinking that you're going to lose anyway. You need to have a belief that it's like, okay, if I play well enough, I have a really good chance of winning this game. But if you take that too far to the extreme, and you think that if I'm good enough, I can win, then you're going to think, oh my God, like I'm losing these games, but like that means I have to be doing something wrong. But no, sometimes you actually play incredibly well. And again, like a really high level player would still lose that game. And that's just, but it takes so much pressure off yourself. It's like, yeah, you are just going to get hard games. And this is, again, tying into the toolkit of developing a healthy relationship with the game, because half of the battle, as you guys have, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you guys have probably found is, climbing in League of Legends is simultaneously getting better at the game, but also not losing your mind, avoiding all the pitfalls. What do you guys think about that?
So when I was starting out in the MLA, I think my third review I got done was a Jace review. And every single game, I was first picking Jace because I was like, oh, I'm one-tricking this. I hit Diamond on Syndra and Cass, right? One-tricking, first picking every game, so I got the hardest games. So I did it on Jace, and loading into the game, it was like a Malphite. Like, their entire team had counterpicked me because I first picked Jace, right? And before the game even started, Curtis was like, this is a really bad game, like, for Jace. You're going to have a hard time. So for me, I absolutely did lose my mind. I had like 200 games on Jace where I was first picking every single game, and every single game felt impossible. And the second I just like allowed myself to play like those 10% of games where Jace felt unpickable, immediately Diamond, like right away. So I think it's a great point to not only not put too much energy into bad VODs, but also like make sure you're not going to lose your mind putting so much effort into something that doesn't matter.
I've had a couple of times in my current and steer journey where AJ, one of the coaches in MLA, I will stare at a VOD that's like 50 kills to 5, and I will just keep repeating to myself, AJ would win this, AJ would win this, AJ would win this. I've only like kind of started now realizing that it's a little toxic after our last review.
I think a really important point that I don't think gets talked about enough by people within the community, within MLA, at least as I've experienced, is not only developing that healthy relationship with the game, but more importantly, a healthy relationship with yourself. I think a lot of people struggle being kind to themselves, especially if they don't meet a certain standard or there's certain arbitrary metric. And this creates a trickle effect to their solo queue, whether they realize it or not. So for me, with my own journey, what I've paid special focus on this last split was repairing my relationship with myself, not holding myself to the highest standard possible, like almost impossible standards to reach, and just learning to say, hey, I lost this game. It's okay. It's okay. Like, it really is okay.
I think that's one of the things that I've been struggling with the most this split. Just like, there's a little bit of the mind fuck, right? Of like new split starts, everybody's rank is like shifted down visibly, and it's like hard to like separate how that feels from like being objective about the game. But then you like compound that with like losing a ton, and you're just like, why am I losing these games? Like, I'm making mistakes that I shouldn't be making. Like, this isn't like how I play normally. And it just like really does snowball out of control. And like, not having compassion for yourself is one of the quickest ways to like fuck yourself for a month. Honestly, it's like so bad.
Yeah, really good point. I think it's really important. I guess a lesson that sort of League teaches you. Another positive of the ranked journey and why League's such a great game. All right, our next prompt here. How much do you think your gaming background influenced your ranked journey? So Kurtis and I talk a lot about people's expectations coming in to start playing ranked, how much your ranked journey may or may not influence, where you're going to be, how much you're going to struggle with, maybe what role you're going to sort of gravitate towards. So I guess this is sort of a bit of an opportunity as well for you guys to talk a bit about your gaming background, a bit more about yourself. But how much in general do you guys think that, you guys playing a lot of competitive games or lack of playing the competitive games maybe influence your, your current rank journey over the last couple of years?
So getting into League, I never actually had a problem with camera control because I played Age of Empires 2 for a really long time before I got into League. So I know that's something that a lot of people struggle with before getting in, is just they start playing on locked camera and then they have a problem switching off. But for me, a lot of those like top-down strategy games, I think Halo Wars is another one. They can really help you with camera control before you even get into it.
Yeah, I was a big StarCraft player in high school, and so for me, like, that was really similar. Like, the whole like physical controls for the game wasn't the problem. It was like everything else.
I played a lot of shooters. I wasn't like particularly amazing at it, but I just enjoyed being better in that split second, just hitting the perfect headshot, hitting the perfect flick. I loved that feeling. So when I went into League, I tried to replicate it. Like, it was also, it was just straight up combat, no strategy. I just go in there and fight someone, one of us would die. And I think one of my aha moments where I realized that there was a little bit more to the game than may initially seem is, I think must have been like a plat player at the time or something. Maybe it was like season 6 or season 7. And they like 3-stacked the wave into me, and I fought them in that wave. And I was like level 3 or level 4. And I was like, why am I not winning? What's going on, man? I even typed in the chat. I was like, man, well played, bro. Damn, you got me. And he typed after. He was so nice about it. He was like, bro, what are you talking about? You fought me in like 3 waves. And I was like, what? I was so confused. I was like, I literally sat after the game like, what does he mean?
Yeah, I was in the exact same boat as DZ, because the only really competitive game I played before League was Overwatch. And while I was pretty damn good at Overwatch, coming to like League and having to click to move and move your camera and like think, crazy concept to me. That was definitely very hard.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm coming from like a StarCraft background. I floated around like GM MMR when I played. Was like kind of twofold. I think it was helpful in some regards. There's just like, certain mechanics, like, camera control, like stutter stepping as ADC, those kind of like process around improving was all, I think, a good influence. But I think StarCraft also trained, like the StarCraft community when League first came out really looked down on League as like this easy game. It's like, oh, wow, you have to micro one unit or whatever. So I kind of came in with like an attitude of like not really respecting League when I first started like playing, even though I was like trying to get good at it. I was kind of like, this is an easy game. And also I think like depending on where you come from, like what game, like it can train like bad habits. Like, RTS is a lot about doing a lot of things kind of well, and League is about doing like one small thing very well, and like the small mistakes matter a lot. Whereas like in RTS, it doesn't at all. Like if you a click and look away and like 5 extra units die, it doesn't matter as long as you're macroing well, kind of thing. So it was kind of like a double-edged sword for me.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Like, it's the same experience with me, which I think helped me a lot initially. Was I went from World of Warcraft like arena, very like elitist community, and I only played on the American server. And then come into just playing on the Australian server because there wasn't really any good Australian players and stuff. I just look down on this is an easy game. Australians sort of just suck at games, and bam, I got to rank 2 like really quickly, like in season 3. But I think that again probably does give you bad habits, but also that belief, that confidence, I think also as well from that gaming background. It's like League's an easy game, especially if you're I think a lot of people had that perception when many years ago. Now it's different. League's very, very difficult. But, it's in the early days, like, people looked down on League, which I think gave a lot of people who came from competitive gaming backgrounds just like, this is going to be really easy. Like, League's just easy. I'll just get rank 1.
Yeah. I mean, just to give the other side of that coin, I had pretty much no competitive gaming background. I'm not much of a gamer in general. I've tried playing other games. For some reason, the only game I actually enjoy is League. I can't find any enjoyment in really any other game. I've played like I used to be a very like I would play co-op games with my brother and my family, and that's about it. Like like the Nintendo Mario Party, that kind of stuff. So this was like probably my first competitive experience. And so yeah, I was not a fan of competition in general. I was scared of competition. I didn't like you know trying to climb a ladder or anything. So I was very much on the other side of that coin when I started taking League seriously.
That's so interesting. I happen to be like a very competitive person, like in everything, and that's actually my background as well in like basketball, where I would literally go play street ball, and I was in the Philippines at the time. So if y'all don't know, in the Philippines, it's almost like the national sport, and on every street there's a hoop. I would literally just rock up to whatever hoop and whoever's there, and we'd play for 50 cents, and we'd play like it's life or death. So I'm very used to competition. It's just I find that same sort of sense of like pitting yourself against whoever, doesn't matter who, I'll take you on from League. And I think that's part of why I really enjoy it.
So I want to really get into this because you two then are polar opposites. So I want to start with Ishan here. So have you found so what is your relationship with competition now like? Like how when you're playing League, what's it? Are you in that competitive mindset, or is it more you versus yourself?
No. It's completely different now. Like I am a very competitive person now. Like it's completely like I guess as Dio said that basketball maybe was like the origin of that for him. I think League was very much the origin of that for me. I think prior to 2020, I was not a very competitive person, but now and I think it's flown on to real life as well. Now when it's come to IRL hobbies or working a job or like business or anything like that, like I really want to be the best and I really want to like just crush everyone underneath me, and I have a very competitive mindset now, and I really enjoy that. And I think that's something that's definitely changed. And maybe it's just the League community, because the League community is very much like that as well. They'll always be like goading you on in game, and they'll always be you kind of have to build that. But I think I've definitely shifted quite a bit.
But what in hindsight, what do you think it was about competition that, like before League, why do you think, it might be too personal, but even if you don't feel comfortable answering, it's okay.
Sure.
But like, what was it about, you as a person before League that made you maybe not so much into competition?
Sure. Yeah. I think, it's probably not something I've dived into very deep, and it could be interesting to find the answers. But I think maybe at a surface level, I never really pushed myself that hard at things. I got a lot of things handed to me, things that I needed or things that I wanted. I never had to work too hard for the things that I had in life. And so I think from my perspective, I didn't really see the need for competition. I was very much a people pleaser. So I would do things for people. I would find a lot of pleasure in that. And yeah, I think League was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, bar none. And so I think you have to be competitive in order to do well in League, which was not the case for other things for me.
I was just going to go on to Dios here. So you were talking about how you were kind of naturally competitive in basketball and everything. But now, let's say now in League, do you kind of have that? So what's your relationship now with competition in League? Because obviously League it's so different, right? Because it's like in basketball, like you see that person, it's like me versus that person kind of. But like, how does that manifest for you now?
So I can speak at the beginning. It's like, again, what I mentioned with me coming from shooters and also the hyper competitiveness coming from basketball kind of flowed into each other, where I literally didn't think about macro. It was just like punch, right?
I want to actually, guy.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like I'm gonna break your ankles right now. I'm gonna cross you over right now. But in League, if that's possible, I don't know, Lucian mobility or whatever. At the time, there wasn't as much mobility creep as now, so there weren't really a lot of mobile champs back then, But I was laughing so much during Ishan's talk about his growth, not because I was laughing at the growth, but because we've done like a complete opposite of each other in that sense. I was hyper competitive and I always wanted to like just be better than the next person. Now I compete against myself. I don't actually want or like look at other people. I actually I get people that talk to me a lot asking for help with Aurelia specifically, because I've made her a very important core part of my journey. Like I want to become the best Aurelia NA, just to put it out there. And so, of course, a lot of people talk to me about that. They ask my opinion on stuff. And sometimes they'll come up with like a League of Graphs ranking, or they'll talk about, oh yeah, man, like there's this Aurelia player above you. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. Because when you queue up against 5 other people, I don't see other people. They're not actually who you're going against. You're going against yourself and trying to improve upon the best version of yourself. That's what competition is for me now. It's evolved over the years.
You find that a lot of stories with top athletes in their fields as well. That initially it's all about, just dominate, being your opponent. As they actually mature, and you hear like the best coaches and stuff like that. You're against yourself, and that actually is a very natural evolution with top athletes as well. But yeah, as Kerr said, it's really interesting to see the dichotomy of Ishan and Dios there. Because Ishan as well, correct me if I'm wrong, but also during your league journey, you got really into gym and stuff as well, haven't you?
Yep. I think pretty much everything. Yeah.
So you like push yourself in league, and then you wanted to push yourself physically as well. Do those sort of go hand in hand, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was also part of like, I mean, we did like, I know the book club started, and we started reading like Can't Hurt Me, which was also a big driver. I mean, that is like super competitive mindset. I mean, that's more competing against yourself, like Dio said, but I think league, but also like the community at Salto is very much like builds that for you. So I think that helped as well.
This actually, with Dios talking about his childhood and the environment he grew up in was super competitive. A question to pose to all of you. Do you have siblings, like older brothers or sisters that pushed you or challenged you, or you guys like, played in other games with that maybe influenced your league, your competitiveness?
I've got a younger brother who's always been naturally more talented at games than me. And so even though I was the older sibling, like I've grown up with like a chip on my shoulder about my own ability for everything, and like that plus like playing shooters growing up before like I got into StarCraft in high school, it's like made it very easy to have really toxic narratives about like gaming in general, and then also like about myself. I don't know if anyone else has had like a similar experience based on like their siblings' performance, but like that was kind of mine.
Yeah, growing up for me, I definitely grew up with siblings that were also as into gaming as me. Joining Salto originally was a race with my brother to Masters, which I ended up winning, but I kind of cheated. He didn't get much coaching. But yeah, definitely like grew up playing sports with my siblings where we're all close in age. So it's like very comparable playing like, Super Smash Brothers with, siblings, GoldenEye, that kind of stuff.
Is it too late to add to the prompt?
Sorry, what'd you say, Zach?
Oh, is it too late to add to the prompt?
Yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah, if anyone else,
okay.
I actually don't even know who has answered this or not answered this. So
I was just waiting, but everybody just kept talking.
Yeah, go on, Zach. Butt in, dude. Just
Okay.
kick Dios.
I didn't want to be rude.
Dios. That's right. You're fine.
Okay, yeah. For my background, like I was also non-competitive. Like I played Minecraft, so that did not help at all. And when I got into League, I'm like, man, this game's hard. Like I got to learn what all these characters do, and what are all these items? What's it? There's so much stuff I got to know. I was just like completely lost. So yeah, it's a hard game. I'll come back to it later. And that's how it started.
So why did you come back? Like how do you go from Minecraft? I'm actually just very curious because there's a lot of, I assume you're quite young, Zach. A lot of younger people play Minecraft. It's like one of the most popular games of the world. How did you go shift to League of Legends? I feel like it's so different. Or maybe
it is very different. It's mainly because of my friends. They're like, hey, you want to play this game? I'm like, oh man, but I'm really bad at it. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll play. And slowly I just kept playing. And then we just got like a group, and I made more friends in the game. We just kept playing together.
Are you the highest rank? Because you've been to Diamond. Have any of your other friends, are they high rank as well, or?
I think I'm the highest rank. Maybe.
And these guys were Minecraft players as well, or?
Yeah. Some of them are Minecraft players, and some I just met through League. Some of them, they don't even play League anymore, but we still like hang out and like play other games together.
And what did your friends think about you hitting Diamond?
I don't really talk about it. I don't talk about League like outside like this little circle, really.
I see. So you're very much just like in the MLA and stuff, and just like this is your hobby, and then they just sort of you
Yeah,
connect
pretty
with
much.
them
Like
and
they all
then-
got like those narratives. I don't like talking about it. Like you got to get into it, and I just don't want to do that.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I mean, because we've had a couple of episodes where people have even written into the mailbag saying they don't enjoy talking to their friends about League based on the philosophy that we have here. Does people experience that as well, or have they struggled to like connect through League after you've gone down the BBC rabbit hole on the MLA and Sol 2?
I've definitely like lost some friends because of my change in approach to the game. Like some people that I've like played with for like 8-9 years, like doing flex queues and stuff, where it's just like you just like can't talk to them to some degree. Like they just don't get it, you know.
I think it's really hard too because, you know, it's pretty commonplace just in life in general for someone to vent or just to talk about undesirable things in your life. So when people come to you and they keep getting the same response, like, yeah, man, like that sucks, but like, what was your gameplay like? 20 times in a row. They're
Show me
like,
the details. Let's get
what's
into the
wrong with this guy, man?
details.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm part of a work chat for League. I just chill in there for the most part, and I'm trying to change the culture. It is so hard. It is so hard to have these conversations, and I'm still going to put myself out there and try. But man, like, you have to be ready to know that you're not going to be listened to, no matter how many times you put it out there, because this is something that really does need to be internalized.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like even for you joining Curtis's initial coaches club, you know, that took you ages to internalize, even for yourself, even you paying money to initially join the program.
Yeah, and I would say I'm like, it may not seem like it to most people. I don't know if Curtis ever got like a hint of it, but I wasn't a perfect client. It took me a long time, even within the MLA, to fully internalize it. I would say only as recently as just even like a couple months ago. Like that recent.
Yeah, I think you've changed a lot, Dios. I think you definitely have like evolved your view of things. But I think that's everyone has their own, like, it takes time for people to figure out what League is for them. I don't think you had an identity. I think you you enjoyed the game, but I don't think you really knew why you played it and what specifically you wanted to get out of it. And I think my observation is usually like, oh yeah, okay, I'm now motivated by this kind of Aurelia journey and, you know, and helping other people and so on and so forth. Like, I think you started to realize what League is for you, and I think that's what I've noticed. And I think everyone's different. You know, some people fade away from League. Some people realize, you know, League's not for them, and it doesn't have a place in their life. And other people, you know, it's a competitive outlet. For some people, they want to play with friends. You know, I think people slowly realize over time, because I think all of us, when we all first started playing League, it's like, oh, this game's just fun. You're not really thinking. It's like, it's a game. It's fun. Cool shit. Cool abilities. Looks cool. But then you kind of realize, well, do I actually want to, like, what does this mean to me? I'm spending a lot of time playing this thing. You know, what does it do for me? And that's where you have to kind of make a choice. Otherwise, you get kind of stuck in this weird purgatory state where you're just kind of playing because you're addicted, and it's really, really hard to manage in your life.
I think that was really one of the important key factors for me. Definitely, just applying that structure, applying like having a goal, and along with that, helping people. Like learning along the way that I really, really like helping people. Like I like being able to influence someone's journey and make it better for them, because mine wasn't. It wasn't an easy journey, you know.
I actually did not think League was fun at the start. It was just a social thing because all I did was just die. That was not fun. I just stared at a gray screen the entire time. Like, I remember I played Warwick, and I'm like, okay, let's see. Well, I have like one ability that does damage. Everything else it doesn't do damage. And this one's like, his ult's on a really long cooldown. I just like jump on top of someone. Like, man, this sucks.
Yeah, Warwick,
Well,
you're
at
going
least
to
I
end
have
up
my
with
friends here.
15 deaths with Warwick very easily.
Yeah.
Especially if you're building full damage.
I remember I played Rambus as well. I thought he was pretty useless. I'm like, why do I want someone to attack me? Like, I'll just die then. Like, it was not fun at the start.
My first biggest memory of League was a friend taking me into a custom game and him locking in Fizz and then just killing me on repeat. And he was bronze 5 at the time, and so he took me and one of my other friends who just started playing the game, and he would just take us in these like 1v2s to just kill us on a repeat, and we'd die like 20 times. And I think I genuinely, at that point, just out of spite, I'm like, I'm gonna be better than this guy.
That guy's a psychopath. What the hell is that? What sort of friends do you surround yourself with, dude? What the
That's
hell?
a homie,
Ego
man.
boost. It's like the noob stompers, Curtis. You know, like this, you know, that's. I guess that's the extreme. You know, you get your friends. It's like, come here so I can beat you up.
That's crazy.
I feel like that's such a formative experience for League players, though. It's just like, especially with like Fizz or like LeBlanc, where it's just like they just start shit stomping you, and you're like, I don't understand what's going on, and you just like have to roll with it.
All right. Next prompt here. What rank did you plateau at? Where did
Every
you
rank?
struggle in your journey? Heck yeah, the answer could be every
Any
rank.
plateau?
So what do you guys? Who wants to start?
I plateaued at P4 when I made 80 carry. I'm like, man, my role just sucks. Like, I just blow up, I die right away. I'm like, okay, mid lane's probably better. Like, it's a better role. ADC just sucks. That's one of the reasons I joined.
So your plateau was a reason for you to switch roles, Zach, and then that's so.
Yep.
Was it do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing? Like, are you happy with your switch?
I'm happy now, but at the time, I don't think it was a good idea because I just thought 80 carry sucked. Like, I thought it was just like fundamentally bad. I'm like, man, my role's just getting worse and worse. Like, the other roles are better. Why am I playing this?
Yeah, my plateau was when Mordekaiser got reworked, because I was like a hardcore 800,000 point mid lane Mord one trick. That was like the critical moment because when he got reworked, not only did I get stuck in Platinum 4 for like the entire season, I also had to reevaluate why I even want to play the game. And I think like about 3 or 4 months after that is when I found Curtis's content.
So you had the plateau before you joined, but you have never really plateaued after that, Kaiser.
My other biggest plateau was when I hit Masters for the first time, because I would hit Masters, get to like 20, 50 LP, get stuck, and then be like, oh, I'm going to play another champion of Masters, and that's going to get me better. And so I ended up playing 12, 13 champions to Masters, but never actually getting past that rank until I finally broke through to like 200 OP last season, just sticking to silos. So that was the other big plateau.
I have something else to add on. After I role swapped, I ended up hitting the same plateau point again on mid lane. And I'm like, man, maybe it's not my role. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah, that's how it works. Like most of the time, you know, like everyone thinks the grass is green on the other side. And so that, I guess that plateau point was actually good for you, Zach, because then you get to realize like, okay, I actually need to get into the details and figure out how to actually improve at this role. So yeah, that's actually a really common story that I actually find. People think again they can just switch role and they end up just being the same thing, but the same new set of problems. Like, oh, were you saying the same thing? Like mid lane like has all these flaws and it sucks, Zach?
No, I'm just like, man, I'm just bad. Like, I gotta figure this out.
It's bad. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
You can't use that excuse again, right? Because
I can't say the same thing again.
No, yeah, that's just absolutely delusional at that point. So I guess this question is more so like when you guys started to really climb seriously. So not beforehand, like because obviously a lot of you guys have the stories. Like I had the plateau and I joined Soul 2 MLA. So when you actually started seriously climbing, when was it that you feel like you plateaued?
D1. I was like, I think I bounced off like a game from Masters like 8 times before I finally hit it. I ended up going all the way back down to D4 for a bit and then climbed back up in one run. Like it was just, I just like couldn't get over the line. I don't know. It was like really weird.
Looking back, did it make sense, or do you actually have no explanation why? Because that's a big drop that you wanted to do.
Part of it, like the drop was definitely because I started just getting in my own head. I'm a big confidence player, like as evidenced by like the massive LP swings that I've always had. It's like if I'm not feeling good about myself or my ability, like I don't play well, and then I obviously like tank. But like not getting over the line the first time, it was like a combination of stuff. Like I wasn't properly assessing win conditions. It was like the really classic, like you're approaching or at low masters, like now you kind of like need to learn the game. Like I was executing my champion well, like I was fighting well, but like I put myself or my team in like weird spots. And then also just like some NA Q pop times or Q pop stuff where it's like playing in the mornings in like D1 plus lobbies that on NA can be really, really awkward. Like I think I had 2 of the games that I lost. There were like 2 grandmasters in my games. And it was just like 600 LP like rank spread, and it was just like completely. I don't want to say it's like coin flip, but like the games were not. They were anomalies for a couple of them, but like the combination there, like I just couldn't get over the line. Like, yeah, it was like I was holding myself back with some of that stuff.
I got really stuck around Emerald 1 and D1. I realized I have a big habit of like, oh, I queued into a lobby and I see like 8 Masters borders. Now I need to play different because this is a Masters lobby. And the same thing for when I was first getting into Diamond.
For me, I got stuck in like E2, E1 for a really long time. I don't think it was because I was close to Diamond or anything. I think it was because I thought I deserved better because I was there for so long. And this happened again, like after the season restart and after the ranks fell back down. Every single time I play League and I think I deserve better, I immediately stop learning and I play much worse. So my plateau point has way more to do with if I think I deserve more. I have to be grateful for every game I get into. And if I am, then I'll start learning from every player I'm playing against and playing with. But if I'm like, oh, I deserve better, I just like, I shouldn't be in this game, I just don't learn anything and I'll just start falling really fast.
It's so common. Tim Mysterious is another MLE coach. He's like a seasoned high elo player, and you know he's a coach himself, and he's fallen into that trap. And like that, the actual underlying respect, like if you lack respect of your opponents, like you don't give your opponents respect, and you feel like you're better, like superior to them. It's so hard to learn because that ego, that like superior feeling, kind of prevents curiosity. And and then when things don't go your way, it's so hard to look at how you contributed to it because you're automatically assuming that you're always right and they're always wrong, or your teammates are always wrong and you're always right. Or if you died, it wasn't because they played well, it's because you messed up, like or they got lucky or something. Like it's so hard to take responsibility and accountability for your mistakes. It's so common.
Yeah, I think Curtis and Qualified made two like really good points, and I think just to add on to that, I think that's a big reason why a lot of players, high elo players will go on Smurfs and like Emerald and Plat, and then they always I always see them sometimes complain, including myself, like, why am I losing games in Emerald and Plat, or why do I have a 45% win rate in Emerald over the last like 30 games? And I think a big part of it is also like a lack of respect for the opponents that you're playing against, that leads to unable to even win games 800 to 1000 LP below your peak.
That's such a good point. I saw a community post on the school, and now in hindsight, looking back, so my response was more about like, don't bother getting into like the weeds of, what rank you're playing against. Just focus on what you're learning. But I think you're actually spot on, Ishan. The underlying problem is that because they know they're playing in a lower elo lobby, they're inherently not giving their opponents respect, and then that's actually preventing them from being present in the moment and expressing their best selves, because again, it's toxic expectations. Yeah, that's actually really spot
on. For me, I already spoke about the beginning of my MLA journey, but where I think I actually plateaued personally was like low masters. Like we're talking at the cusp of masters, and I think the issue there, honestly, it was simply as I was not willing to acknowledge that I was not as good as I wanted to be. And that was a big issue. It always led to like a fall all the way down to as low as like high Emerald or high Plat, and then bounce back up to Masters because I fixed my mental. But then when I get there again to low Masters, I just wouldn't be able to reconcile my gameplay with where I actually need to be to keep climbing. So that was my issue.
It's like a cycle. It's like a constant cycle. Is that what you would say?
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. I think for like 2.5 seasons, I would do the rubber band. Although like in Masters, maybe 50-ish LP all the way down to as low as Plat 3, Emerald 3, and then back up. Like it was just a constant thing. And I wouldn't sit there and think, there's a problem. No, I'd be just like, no, man, like my teammates, bro. I swear to God, it's my teammates. You know, even then, even in MLA.
Have you guys what's the word, like generated like an okay, not an ego, but like have you guys had this narrative thought where you've said to yourself, I 3-block, I review, I do all these things, you know, that Curtis and Nathan tell him, and I still like, why am I struggling versus this player that I know is not doing it? Has these thoughts gone through your head in your journey? And like being frustrated, it's like even like, oh, Curtis and Nathan, like, you know, it's just, it must be crap. Like, why am I? This guy doesn't do this.
No, 100%. I mean, I think the worst was there was a player. There's a Karthus OTP that I knew who hit Diamond 1, and what they would do every single game is they would full clear twice, top to bot, every single game. They wouldn't like look at the lanes or anything, and then after that they would base and they would run straight to Dragon, and they wouldn't care about priority or anything, and they just did the strategy every game. They hit Diamond 1, and at the time I was plat, and it just frustrated me to no end that this player could have, in my mind, the dumbest strat ever, and they could be, you know, 800 LP or 400 LP above me. But I mean, I guess there's more factors that go into it than just, you know, what it seems on the surface.
So we're talking about the people that are higher ranked than you playing one way kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Well, like we're talking about, you know, being plateauing and stuff, and you know, Dios was talking about like sort of a cycle that he went into, like having the thought, being, you know, following our philosophy, and you know, seeing other people in our programs get results, like they're 3-blocking, you know, 3-block reviewing, but you're not. But you know, the person your opponent is not actually is not doing that, but you're struggling versus them. Like there's sort of this narrative. It's like I feel like I'm doing the right things. I know that other people in my game's not doing the right things. Like, you know, sort of how did you console with that?
I was just going to say one thing on top of that, Lo. I think the even bigger one is I'm getting coaching. I deserve to climb.
Yeah.
That's a really big one. I've had clients where they feel like I'm here getting coaching. I'm reviewing my game. I'm doing everything, and I'm still not climbing. It's like that just adds so much pressure onto themselves, so much expectations, and then again they're not able to be present in free flow and actually express their best self. Who here actually struggled with that out of interest? Logan, Ellie, Kaiser. Nice. Okay, so that's what, about half.
We've had 2 reviews, coach, so I think I'm okay on that one.
Yeah.
I think another big part of that, and like this is probably more jungle specific than anything else, but like when you watch somebody, like when you lose to somebody after like spending all game being like, what is the psycho doing? Just like, you know, like the Rek'Sai 3 camp and just like literally permasit top lane and then wait for the treats to stack up. And then you lose those players. It's just like, what am I doing? Like, why am I trying so hard to like?
Yeah, if it's that easy, like yeah, it looks so easy. It's like why should I just be doing this like this? But again, it's like sort of just looking at just one game. You know, it's like that guy I'm sure does that every game, and the top laner it's not a good gank.
Like you read about the posts all the time. You're like, okay, I pull up OPGG, I see who's on a lose streak, and I just camp their lane and mental boom them, and it's just like the way that people approach the game sometimes is just like so. I can't even describe it. It's like
it's metagaming.
You can lose your mind. Yeah, like definitely lose my mind losing to those players. Sometimes it's just like, what the fuck is this?
But yeah, the thing is though, you don't lose to these players in the long run. Yeah. That's the thing. You got to think long term in your journey. And you know, I always say this to people in the MLA, like I hate level 1 invades for the same reason. It's like if you're in the MLA, more often than not, you're probably going to be a little bit more thoughtful than the average player. You're probably going to know a little bit more about the game. You're probably going to have a little bit more awareness of win conditions. Over the long sample size of games, even if these people beat you, where are they going to be in a season from now? Where are they going to be in 2 seasons from now? And that's what you see. You see the trajectory over time because people are always looking for the next gimmick, like Ellie's saying, like that jungler who's going on like some, you know, Porofessor and looking at who do I need to camp. They're not actually playing League of Legends. Yeah, they may win that game. Right? But they're not going to be at that rank in the long run as everyone gets better.
Before MLA, I used to do that on Twist of Fate, where I would OP.GG my top and bot and see who had higher win rate, and then just ult them.
That's where I'm ulting.
Dude, it's not even a joke.
That is crazy to me. That's actually mind-boggling.
Well, again, it goes back to Curtis. As humans, we want a nice little simple one-sentence thing. It's like, this is what I do, this is how I win. And the League is so much more nuanced than that.
You can't be mad. That's win con assessment, man. Like,
yeah, they're having a crack.
It's IRL win con assessment.
That is a psychological. Is it a psychological win con assessment? Not exactly how I would view the game. But...
Yeah. Oh, I could answer to the coaching thing too. Going back to the gaming background thing, I think the fact that I plateaued in Emerald for quite a while, and a lot of my friends that don't try at League were also around Emerald. Coming from a gaming background where I hit Masters in StarCraft very quickly, and I think I was in Emerald for over a year. I got super in my head. Over that basically I'm trying just as hard as I used to at this other thing that I had way more success at way more quickly, and it kind of can snowball like that.
All right, our next prompt here. Looking back, what gave you the most satisfaction? Was it achieving your ranked goal, or was it the improvement journey itself?
The first time I hit Masters, it threw me in for such a loop because I was so focused for 6 years on achieving that rank goal that the second I hit it, I felt like 800 OP. It did give me this immense satisfaction for reaching this goal, but it was also focusing on that rank goal was probably one of the worst mistakes I ever made in my journey. And so now what does give me the most satisfaction is hitting my improvement goals, right? Finishing my learning objectives, learning a new skill. But I just that was a mistake I made about 2 years ago. I think Curtis actually DM'd me because I not only did I fall a lot, I also just started becoming very toxic outside of game. So that's kind of my experience with the ranked goal versus improvement journey satisfaction.
I think for me it was hitting the point where I was actually getting to learn the game instead of my champion. Once I got to Masters, I was top 50 Briar World, #1 on server for a little while, and it's just I felt like I was just learning League instead of how to play my character. It was just the free flow state for piloting and just what am I doing? With the specifics of where am I going? What am I pathing towards? Who am I fighting? What do I have to play around? It was just a completely different game. It's so much more fun.
So once you hit Master, you started thinking that way, Alan, or you enjoyed the aspect of I can actually start playing the game rather than my champion. That was
D1 Masters. It was the point where I started just winning quote unquote counter matchups to Briar, where it's just I'm just so nutty on the champion that I just have to play the game correctly, and then it does, the champion does the rest for me. I don't have to think about it. That was the point for me.
Just kind of jumping in here, one thing I've noticed in the MLA is that how important having a ranked goal is for so many, not everyone, but for a lot of people. I've actually had a bunch of people reach out to me in DMs and say, Curtis, I'm not feeling XYZ about the game. And I said, well, what are you trying to achieve? Do you have a goal? Is there something that excites you? What are you improving for? Now, there are some people that say, I don't really get excited about the rank. I want to develop champ mastery, whatever. But I found majority of people have a much more enjoyable experience when they actually have some ambitious ranked goal. I used to be really anti that. I used to be having some sort of ranked goal is not really that important. It's about the process, whatever. But it's they go hand in hand. Again, you need both. It's having something that excites you, a ranked goal, I think is, at least for me as well, really, it's always been quite good. I want to get to a certain rank. That's always what motivated me, getting challenged each and every season. If I didn't have that, it's a lot harder to actually push.
So
how did you guys feel?
For me personally, I actually don't take any satisfaction from my ranks anymore. It's more so the small steps. So one is the days, wow, I was really productive today. I did 2-3 blocks, right? I'm cleaning my room. I was chopping firewood, and I did that on top of class, right? That feels like a really productive day. And I like doing that. And another thing that I feel like rewards from is like the self benchmarks thing, right? So like going into review, I'm like, I'm going to take away one thing. Like I'm going to learn what this champion does. I'm going to learn like the tactic interactions with this. Like if Syndra opens with E on me on cast, then I have an opening. If she doesn't open with E, then I don't go in, right? That's what I take a lot of satisfaction from. But honestly, a lot of the time when I would hit a higher rank, I was so like focused on my own gameplay that I was like, I'm just learning. Like it doesn't even like process in my brain, to be honest.
Were you always like that qualified, or did that take a while for you to get to?
I think I only got that way when I started paying attention way more to the process than the actual game, to be honest. Like looking at big general picture, I used to be like obsessed with my current rank, like how much effort I can put in, like, oh, how good these games are or whatever, right? But now that I'm focused on process, like probably after hitting masters at some point, it just doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, I would say it's like probably like 50-50 for me. Like getting to a ranked, like the counterfactual is like if the rank system didn't exist, there was just a hidden MMR system with no idea where you stood, would you play League as ambitiously as you do? And I think the answer is probably no. But I also find a lot of satisfaction in the actual improvement. I think, Nathan, you used the analogy for like your Rek'Sai gameplay once of like you view playing Rek'Sai as like using a surgeon's scalpel or something like that. Something like that. Those games where like you are jungle tracking perfectly, you've like been perfectly on time to every gank, and like you knew that they were going to gank, and so now you counter ganked and blew up the game, and now you're like 2-0 and they lose the game, kind of stuff. Like is really satisfying, and that's like, I guess, the fundamentals coming into play that is really satisfying to look at.
Yeah, I think it was a surgeon scalpel that I like to use. I'm just sitting there and doing my job, and the result at the end. You know, that's the most fun thing about me. It's just like executing all the fundamentals beautifully. Just like Curtis likes to use the analogy of painting. You know, just every game that you start is a blank canvas, and I just want to just do a beautiful painting, and that's what and then I have an idea of what that looks like with a really good Rek'Sai game when I was challenger.
Yeah, I think flowing off of what Nathan and Logan said, I think there's these moments where you get so much satisfaction when you change your view of the game, or there's like this epiphany that you have about the game. Like I think a long time ago, one of the reviews that I had with Nathan is when as an assassin, you want to be looking for picks on AD carries or other players in the game, and he would show me how I could predict where an enemy is going to be based on the state of the wave. So in the side lane, if a wave is crashing into the tower, someone has to go catch the wave. So that, you can, if you're there before the wave crashes, you're going to get a pick there. And just the idea that you can predict where people are going to be based on the waves was like, I was like, wow, this game is so beautiful. Like, this is the coolest thing I've ever heard, that you can just predict where people are going to be. Like, you feel like such a beast when you're there 30 seconds in advance, and then you see the guy coming down into the wave completely clueless, and you're like, holy cow, like, this is like the coolest thing. And I don't know, it's just like these moments where you like learn something new about the game entirely, or you have a new view of the game. I think it's super satisfying to me.
But I think it's important to recognize, I with what Logan said though, like I just been very careful, because I'm totally on board with all of you, with what Qualified said, and Ishan and Logan, what you guys said in terms of like, there's these moments that you have and you're like, wow, like League of Legends is such a beautiful game. And like, I actually feel there's nothing else like it, right? There's like this perfect combination of like mechanical expression, thinking in the future, anticipation, timing. It's just it's addictive. But also, I think it's very naive of us to think that, again, if there were no rank system, would we still be doing this? If you didn't see a victory, if there was no nexus, I do think that because it's easy for us, for everyone in this call, like you're taking the game pretty seriously. You played the game for a long time. Obviously, you guys have invested money getting coaching. You're obviously dedicated League of Legends players. For all of us, we understand, and you've had success. And you felt these things. So for all of us who've had these experiences, it's so easy to just say, oh yeah, it's the process, it's the feeling. But for a lot of people listening who have maybe never felt that, striving for a ranked goal is the only, I don't see it any other way. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like that is it's kind of like
that's the ignition. That's the thing that gets the engine started. The rank goal is what gets the engine started. Then once the engine's going, then the satisfaction from the process and the feeling those things is what kind of, that's the fuel of what keeps it going, if you will, you know? I don't know. I just feel like I sometimes have to be really careful about what we say, because sometimes I feel like we're just so...
It's sometimes too theoretical. It's like, you know, it's all about the process and the journey. But all of us as well has also had the situation where we've chased the rank, whatever, and it's hurt us. You know, it's like, okay, we need to just bring it back. It's like, I need to accept my level of play, enjoy the 3 blocks, you know, as Qualified said, like, what does a great day look like for me? And just execute that over time, and then the rank will come over time as you know, come into this process.
I think everyone in this call as well, you know, I know you, DLs, you're really passionate, and Kaiser, you guys are specifically kind of passionate about helping other people. You know, I think as well, everyone in this call who's had success during the process, in a way, if you actually want to influence people around you so they can get more out of their time playing the game, it's almost as if you have a responsibility to kind of relay the information in a way that's accessible for other people. Like the rank, because like I feel what you all experience is sometimes so detached from what the average league experience is. And if you go from, oh yeah, you just got to stay focused on the process, it's like people listen to that like, what the fuck? What do they even mean? I don't.
It's bullshit.
They just think it's bullshit. You know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like you got to play that. You got to meet them in the middle sometimes. I feel like, you know, like I understand how you feel and blah 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 blah, and like try and meet them in the middle. I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking bullshit.
I'm sure you're woken up to like lines of text from me trying to explain it in that fashion.
Or that as well. Yeah, exactly.
That's why, like, as much as I want to be a League of Legends coach, like I just don't feel comfortable, like, I guess, putting myself in the shoes of others or trying to give this information, because I do have this detachment from like the average league player that it's going to be, you know, very hard to overcome.
I actually think that's why I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I do communicate and talk with a lot of people, but I think that's why a lot of people are willing to have those conversations with me, because I just keep it real. I try to keep it real. I don't keep it theoretical. I'm like, oh man, that fucking sucks, man. Yeah, Botley ran it again, man. Tough luck, you know. I let them have their time, because it's not intuitive for people. It's really not. So I let them have their time of frustration, and then later on, I'll poke them and be like, yo, bro, you wanna talk about it? Like, actually talk about it, because we can talk about it, you know. But I think that's what I bring to the table as far as skill set as a mentor, and I'm very happy to do so. I love talking to people. I love hearing about their journeys. I love hearing about their hardships. Like, bring it to me, bro. Like, I've had that shit too. I get it. And honestly, and I try to keep this in perspective as much as possible, I've had days where I didn't even have food to eat, you know. Like, my most expensive pair of shoes was like a 50-cent pair of sandals. So if we're here in this spot playing League, able to dedicate 100% of our mental stack just towards getting better, we're in a pretty good spot, man. It's okay that bot lane runs it. I promise. You know?
That's a powerful mindset, man.
It's like gratefulness perspective, you know, and this is why you can just enjoy the game like a lot more than maybe, other people. All right, our next prompt here. What is one narrative that took you forever to overcome or you still struggle with to this day?
Playing around what's actually happening instead of what, like, quote unquote, should be happening. Like, with, like, game states, play, like, ways that lanes will play out, pathing decisions, stuff like that.
Yeah, really, really common one, especially once you gain more experience and knowledge. And I see a lot of the people that really struggle. Like, I see a lot of like Emerald players, and Emerald's always an interesting rank because they're players that have watched so much coaching content. They watch maybe like pro play all the time, right? And they have this visualization of like this matchup or you know, how it should work. This is actually why for win contests, like we're talking about in terms of my coaching has evolved with where do I path towards level 1? Like, I don't really, it's something to talk about, but I don't, because anything can happen in a solo queue game. It's so chaotic. I don't say if you don't path this lane, you insta lose. You know, there's so much more opportunities that's going to happen in the game, but that's really important to understand. The game's going to be chaotic. I just need to accept reality. The ace mentality, Curtis, that Coach Cupcake talks about, I think is really helpful with that.
Yeah, mine is. We talked about it earlier, but it's that just not every game is winnable. Like that's just such a hard thing to accept, especially when you're trying to detach like from your team and that it's a solo journey. But every game isn't winnable. Like that is just immensely hard.
So kind of what Ellie said as well, right? Like when you're playing some games, it's like you visualize how it's going to go, right? So like when I play Ari into Hui a lot of the time, right? The Hui is just going to hard shove me. And the way I view that matchup is like, oh, I'm just going to get hard shoved and my jungler is going to come help me, right? But going into the game, you need to understand that that's not always going to happen. Sometimes your jungler is just never going to come mid. Even if, like, theoretically he should, the ability to play League from a down perspective like that, to stay in the game when your team is not playing correctly or when you don't think they're playing correctly, you could be wrong. Maybe your jungler is camping bot and every single time he goes bot, they get a double kill, right? You need to be able to play from these weird positions where you're going to win the game otherwise, right? But a lot of people will end up mental booming like, oh, it's like, oh, I thought I should have got a gank here, like they don't have flash, whatever, and I don't get a gank. But if you just play to your best still, regardless of the poor situation, sometimes your team will just pop off. It's so important to be able to play from like that perspective where your team is playing like theoretically incorrectly.
Yeah, I struggled a long time with the concept of like, one particular decision like has to happen, and if it doesn't, it's illegal. Like, like my lanes have prio and I want to contest, scuttle or something like that, and I'm in a like bad individual matchup. I'm like, I need to force this because if this scaling jungle gets this crab, I lose the game or something like that. Maybe not that extreme, but just those kind of things where it's just like, no, that's like one option that could happen, and if my laner's base here, then that's fine. I can finish clearing and go about my day. And
did you ever flash for scuttle?
No, I'm not sure. Probably.
Flash for dragon. That's pretty fun.
Oh, let's go.
Real ones flash for cannon.
I think
Flash
I've done
spike,
that
classic combo.
I actually just wanted to tack on to what Sam said. It kind of flows in with each other in the sense that I think for the longest, I struggled with a sense of entitlement that I just expected my teammates to know better, that they should know better, especially once you start going up the ranks. You're like, well, yeah, I could expect this in plat, man, but we're in high diamond, man. Like they should know better. They should rotate here. They should see what I see. And it took a really long time. And in fact, I had a direct conversation with Curtis about this because I thought that once you reach an arbitrary percentage of the player base, everyone sees the game the same way. Everyone gets there the same way macro-wise, which really is not the case, man. And that's something that I had to wrap my head around. It was very difficult to.
It's like so hard reconciling like how everybody's journey is like that different, and you can like get there 1,000 different ways. It's like so weird. It's super cool, but it's like so weird.
I was the 0-9 Aurelio, by the way.
It's okay. I carry those.
What about you, Nathan, out of interest? I know you've had your fair share of narratives. What about you?
The classic one for me, I've said this 100 times. It's like when I'm playing, all the early game junglers, it's like, okay, I have to do things early. That's the narrative. I think it took me a 6 months, a year, because I was completely stuck at 500 LP, like Grandmaster, for about a year. And then it wasn't until I realized that I really internalized that an early game jungler, you can have the mindset of scaling, even though you technically don't scale, but that's just going to help not guide your decision making in the game. Then that's what basically got me to Challenger.
Yeah, I think Nathan definitely instilled a lot of that in the content. Like we could see it from the content as well. I mean, there were a lot of videos where Nathan would post where he would just say like, I'm just going to full clear on Rek'Sai until level 6, and we'd just be like, what do you mean full clear on Rek'Sai until level 6? It's like,
I would throw out the FF vote. I would throw it out.
There you go.
And actually, like that kind of stuff like grows into like how you approach objectives and things too. It's like just sometimes you just have to accept that like it's not an option. Like it doesn't matter that like you have prio on mid bot and their lanes are back, your laners aren't coming for Drake, they have a stronger jungler, like I can't go. And it's like not losing your mind and just sending shit because like, oh, it should happen, like, oh, like I have to do this. It's like game changing.
Yeah. Logan also said a word when he was speaking. The concept of an illegal play, that was like a really hard one for me to break. Where like, oh, they did this thing that like theoretically shouldn't work, but it did. That's so illegal. This shouldn't happen ever. That was a really hard narrative to overcome as well.
What about you, Zach? Did you have a narrative that took you a while to overcome?
I already said them earlier. Those are like the big ones. Concept of not every game is winnable. I remember it's a little bit off topic, but I would have issues with like my mental, and I would just like my mental would just go boom, you know, because whenever I reviewed a game, I would only write down like my mistakes, and that just kept wearing me down. I never wrote down like what I did well, and, like what I could replicate.
It's so important to be kind to yourself, man. It really is. I think with how many journeys I've interacted with personally, what I see as a trend in general is just people focusing on the losses, on their mistakes. Can they even get better? This and that. Like the stuff that you tell yourself in your head does matter.
Oh,
Like it really does.
I was gonna say, just really understanding that talent exists and talent is just real. Like it's just like you can understand the game as much as you want, but like there are people that are just mind-bogglingly good at the game and they don't think in the same way as you do, and they can be better than you, and they may always potentially be better than you, but talent is a thing that exists, and I think it's just naive to assume that it doesn't. And that's been something that really kind of at times it you know, it's not really nowadays, but it did really used to just annoy me. It just annoyed me. And it's like, there's just people that are just freaks at the game. And yeah, I would say that's like, I guess, I don't know if it's a narrative, but it's something that bothered me a lot.
Is that something you found comfort in now, Curtis? You sort of just accepted it, or you talk about specific lane opponents? You know, you talk about the Eminus.
Yeah. Okay. So it's more. Okay. So like so you know, I've been very vocal about this on the BBC. Like the whole idea of like understanding, like being aware of just the concept of intuition and muscle memory, and understanding how muscle memory and intuition is developed, and how certain people's minds, the way they're wired, is that they can develop muscle memory and intuition faster and more effective than other people. And you get certain people that are able to, you know, just really, really understand things way quicker, way faster, and they have attention to detail and things that you wouldn't, and they're like that, but they don't even understand. They can't even articulate what they're doing. They're so intuitive that they can do things to such a high level without truly understanding it. But they're just so. It's almost as if they can get away with things just because they're just so good mechanically. It's more so mechanically as well. And I think for me that the tough pill to swallow is like, at the end of the day, Nathan, you have a quote, it's like damage solves all problems. And there are just people that know how to deal damage, and they know how to deal an insane amount of damage and in a very effective way. And that was really hard for me to deal with, because it's like, well, like what this guy is doing is illegal, but he's just landing all his skill shots and he's spacing and tethering perfectly, and he's CSing really, really well. And because of that, he's just got a giant lead. So yeah, that really annoying for me to deal with sometimes.
You struggle with this today, still to this day?
No, I haven't. I mean, I don't really play, and I haven't played in high challenger for a while, so I haven't really experienced this. But it's been, I would say, it's been a recurring theme over the past 3 years. I would say.
Oh, 3 years.
Well, specifically the past 3 years, yeah.
Talent is like such just a complicated topic to discuss.
Yeah, it is.
There's also just been some days where I just sit there and be like, this guy, he's just more talented. He's just better. He's going to win against me. Why should I try? And like, that's also a very kind of hard mindset to deal with. And I guess in its own way, kind of a narrative of why should I try if more talented players are just going to win?
I almost think it's not even a good conversation to step into for most people, because
Yeah, it's
when
not.
people step into these conversations, they always want to subconsciously, whether they recognize it or not, they want to drop back to themselves. They want to ask themselves, am I actually talented? Am I more talented than the average? But the thing is, when you see talent, you know it. It doesn't, you don't need to discuss it. Like when you see Joel Embiid, 17 years old, and he picks up a basketball for the first time and you see him windmill dunk it from the free throw line, you're like, oh, he's going to the NBA. You know what I mean? Like you just know. But a lot of people want to have either confirmation or validation of some sort, even if they don't want to acknowledge it.
Does anyone else get like super motivated, like when they lose to somebody who's just like super talented, where it's like obviously they're just playing for funsies and they're just like beating the shit out of you?
Oh, I did know it's inspiring to see the levels, like seeing the levels of the game. I mean, it's just the levels of like, it's just like, holy shit, I thought I was good, but then there's these people, it's like, yeah, like there's levels to this game. And I totally resonate with that, Ellie. Every single time I get shit on by these players, it's like, I got to get my shit together, you know, and I always did push. I actually did make me better. 100%.
Does anyone see Naruto? You guys remember Rock Lee?
Yes.
I was seeing Rock Lee. I'm like, all right, I'm going to be Rock Lee. I'm going to take down Gaara.
Yeah.
That's what I always like to think.
So for me specifically, Berserker is like my arch enemy now. I want to take a single game off of Berserker. That guy is so good, and I totally see the different levels of league when playing against Berserker, because I play against a normal TF, right? It's like, oh, he like uses W, he hits a minion for blue card, right? And then I have like a little opening on cast or something, right? And then I play against Berserker and he's just holding W the entire game, and it feels like he can never walk into lane, or he's like always playing around jungler, or the second my jungler walks on vision, he goes to the correct side of lane and leaves. Like everything feels so flawless, and it gives me so much motivation to get to that level. So not only do I understand it, but so I like understand the complexity of the game, and I can unfold the beauty and really see it.
Are you talking about Berserker playing mid or as off role secondary? Or are you talking about Jojo?
I've played against Berserker when he plays a few different roles, but every single time I play against him, he plays ADTF. So
ADTF, I say.
Like mid lane?
Yeah, mid lane.
Yeah. He plays it mid lane. He played it top lane. One of the games that he played at top, I asked my top laner if he wanted to swap, so I got the opportunity to lane against him there as well.
I think that was the fun thing about finally getting into Masters lobbies, because sometimes you just you get one of those random games with a GM in it or something, and they just completely dumpster you, and I can't even be mad. I'm just like, wow, I didn't even know that your champ did that. That's cool that I lost like that.
It's the level switch up, man. I think that people, until you reach, or at least see it, I'm not even going to say reach, until you see it, you cannot comprehend it. You can hear of it, you can understand it kind of on the edges of the concept, but until you experience it to some degree, you don't know. And this kind of happens. Yeah, you don't.
Spot on to us. You have to feel that. That's so many elements of League where you have to feel what it's like, and you can't us sitting here and talking about this. It just flies over the head of people. You can't even comprehend what does talent even look like in League, or what is this levels of the game. And I still remember this beautiful quote, Nathan, from Carbon. I remember he said this quote, which was this guy was a pro player, and he said, the biggest pet peeve of mine is when people watch pro play, they completely disrespect Fog of War. Because you see God mode, you see everything. And so everyone's in Twitch just saying, oh, how could he do that? Oh, how did he make that mistake? And it's like, dude, you don't understand. You're getting pressured mechanically. You've got all this shit going on. He's probably thinking about all this other stuff. And then it's very, very, very easy to miss something, because it's easy for you to say you're literally aware of everyone's pathing, all the vision, everything, because you're not feeling it. You don't know what it feels like. You're not in the game.
I never truly appreciated just how much further I have to go until I got into a game versus Team Liquid's mid laner, Appa, in solo queue, and he genuinely turbo stomped me. I went down 500 LP after that game. Just seeing the gap between myself and what the top player looks like.
I'm laughing with you, bro. I'm not laughing at you. Sorry.
All right, our next prompt here is, So this is more so looking at other people in the programs, Soul to MLA. What is something you notice in other members in our programs that holds them back? Someone that first joins, or maybe you see like you've seen like the same. It's like, oh, here we go again, or like one of the first reviews, or MLA. It's like, oh, I've heard this review by Curtis like 100 times already. What do you guys think?
I have I have a document where I write down every reason that I see like other people held back to make sure I don't like fall into the same traps, right? The number one reason that I see people aren't climbing faster is they pick the hardest way possible to go about the game. Like they're picking really hard champions, their schedule is really weird, they're like forcing themselves to go in these bad reviews. In my opinion, the best way to approach League is to like not take the easy way out, but what will get you the most progress in like the shortest amount of time in terms of learning and stuff like that, right? For me, like the traditional example is like I could play Syndra into Fizz and not take bone plating and like ego his ult, right? Or I could just take bone plating and it'll be fine. Another one is just going MR boots earlier if I'm struggling in a lane, right? Like they might technically be wrong into some lanes and it may not be good, but it has helped me so much in a long term with improving, because if I'm not taking like the easiest way to do, or like if I'm not like looking at the big picture in terms of improvement, I'm going to get stuck for so long on a problem that shouldn't be nearly as hard as I'm making it.
Why do you think that's the case, Qualified? Why do people feel that they need to make it harder? Is it because we think we're special, or like what do you think? What's your analysis?
I think it is because we like to make it harder on ourselves, because it is difficult sometimes to identify what is a genuine problem and what is something that like our champion struggles with in general, right? So like as a Cassio player playing into Syndra pretty hard, like Xerath, these kind of matchups where I just engage on them and they just push me away or stun me or something are really hard. And I could play that over and over again, and like really struggle like I did for a very long time. But if instead I like take a step back and relax and just look at the easiest way out, it becomes way easier. But if I'm hard on myself and I'm like not looking at any of the positives of me as a player, right? And I'm not looking at the actual matchup, I'm not looking at what other people say about the matchup, then it becomes almost impossible, or at least much more difficult than it should be.
I'm just really passionate about it. I need to just get this off my chest. I'm going to steal the show for a second. Two things that I see all the time that are my pet peeves, I'll say at least now. Okay, so the first one is this idea that they need to learn the game. Oh, my camera's so blurry, sorry. They need to learn the game in like a quote-unquote fundamentally sound way. Just play a champion that gets results and climb. Like I feel as though, when people come into the program, they say, oh yeah, I really want to make my climb with Rise, or, a platinum player playing Azir, or someone wanting to play LeBlanc or whatever. And it's like, okay, yeah, we can do that. But quite honestly, you would genuinely just have a better experience. You'd be a better player. You would have more fun if you just picked a good solo queue champion, got to Diamond 4, and then we can learn shit later on. But the thing that holds people back is they want to learn the game the quote unquote fundamentally sound way or whatever. They think that they're worse off if they climb with a champion that is like maybe not the best. Like they want to climb with Syndra or something, and it's like, okay, you can do that, but you don't have to do that. Like you'd be better if you got to a high rank first and feel the game. Are you going to say something, Ishan?
No, I just like 150% agree with you. Like it's just I get so frustrated by it as well when I see like the 8th question about champion pool, or like, which not to mention that like I think champion pool is important. Like not to knock people for asking those questions, but just I think that you're so much better off. Like, I mean, this might even sound like counterintuitive, but I almost feel like you're better off just trying to get to high elo first and just learning the game against better players who will punish you more, rather than trying to like cover all your bases and like try and play like a tank and an assassin and a mage and a whatever while you're like emerald or plat, and spreading yourself super thin and trying to learn all these fundamentals, when you can just play one champion, play two champions, get to higher elo first, and then you automatically get that better competition. You automatically get punished more, and you can learn better.
Because in a way, fundamentals are kind of overrated, if you will. Okay, I got to be very careful here. fundamentals matter a lot. You got to have good warding, good leaning, good resets. All these things matter. But what matters more is your champ mastery and actually kind of getting results. Like, you got to like get results. Like, that's priority number one in my mind anyway. And that's going to set you up long term and for a much better journey. So I think that's really, really, really important. And then I would say, just to one other thing quickly was not taking the time to understand what other champions do. So like we have this like belief that when you're playing the game, like you're playing the game of League, it's all about me. But there are 9 other champions in the game. Like, you're moving to a skirmish. If you don't know like what Viego does properly and like something, you got to learn that shit. You got to understand what that champion does. And you got to ask yourself, if I was that champion, what would I do? And if you can't answer that question, then nothing matters. No amount of your own champ mastery is going to solve that problem.
Curtis watched me walk into a Xin Zhao E range as an Azir 10 times in a row in a recent review. Just throwing this out there.
Yeah, and it's like, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter how good you are at Azir. If you don't know Xin Zhao's E range, it's end of review. There's nothing else that I can say.
I think this, like, just to flow off that, it does kind of lead back to like the discussion of like talent and like why like quote unquote talented players do well. It's because like just being able to do lots of damage space perfectly and fight well is like so much of the game. Like, I think one of the big things that I've noticed is like watching people get like super bogged down in the details of like, oh, where should I be? Like, I'm pathing here. This is my win con. It's just like a lot of the game just comes down to like you just didn't skirmish well. Like, you didn't dodge Syndra E. You used a targeted ability on Fizz before he popped his E, and then you just like lose, and you're like, oh, well, there's all this stuff that happened. It's like, no, like you just kind of suck at fighting. Like, you've got 400 games on a champion. Like, you should be good enough to do this, but like you're not thinking about how to fight. Like, you're like,
this is
just
Nathan.
kind of running at it. It's like,
this is Nathan in a nutshell. Nathan infuriated me. Like, I remember before Nathan actually worked on his fighting, I remember there was one, I don't know if we were playing in a game together. I think we were playing a game together.
It was
You were
Jarvan
playing
too.
Jarvan. No, was it Jarvan? No, it was Xin
It
Zhao.
was-
I swear. Was it Xin Zhao?
It was Jarvan.
I was playing Cassio. I was like really
Yes.
fed Cassio.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, he's like, oh, the game was end of review. I'm like, no, dude, we win this fight. All you got to do is peel instead of fucking dive onto the back line, and we win. And I'm just like mind boggled. And like, because Nathan's narrative was, I got to have a flawless early game, and the game should never have been here in the first place. And I'm like, dude, your fighting just sucks ass. Like, what are you doing? We can easily win this game if you just play fights better. And then I think that Ellie's spot on. Like, the idea that like you just got to fight better sometimes, and sometimes that's the answer, even though it's not sexy at all. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah.
People hate it. And, you know, specifically, I think mid laners, maybe, you know, talking about to the other mid laners here, maybe they don't experience this as much as, I think junglers, Eleanor, the people that attract to junglers just think, you know, they think it's like, you know, they have really disrespect fighting because we don't fight that much. Like, you know, and I think junglers and probably support players probably fall victim to this a lot more than other roles. They have this lack of respect for how important fighting is. So we like the jungle fundamentals, and I guess support fundamentals are so much sexier than the just how do I play a
Because
champion.
Nathan was the polar opposite of Dios. Dios was fight, get good at fighting, but no brain. And you're all brain and no hands. It was
My
literally,
mindset
you guys
is,
are
how do I
like,
win a game? How can I win a League of Legends game without fighting? That's basically
No KP.
Or every fight is a numbers advantage. Like,
how
ultimate
crazy
numbers
is that?
advantage.
We're all playing a game where you've got one person that literally wants to win without fighting, and the other person is only playing because he can fight.
Yeah.
I like have the problem with fighting too much because I just love fighting in League. I play Briar. Like, I just want to get down to 0 HP and then still kill you. Like, that's what I love in the game. And so it's like, fighting's the best. Like, you just got to do it.
Yeah, I'm on Nathan's side. Curtis once told me I play Victor like support players play Lulu.
Boom, roasted.
That's great. That's we should.
That's savage.
That's a BBC quote. We'll glorify that one.
I'm actually funny. People are saying all these things that I said. I can't remember. We do thousands of reviews. I say some ridiculous shit. I just realized. I think I roast people without even
Someone needs to have a
realizing.
quote book, yeah, or record all the roasting sessions for Curtis. Because you know what I've actually found roast insertions for me, Curtis. I don't know if you've found it. Like people, because I've done that exact sort of like narrative or problem. It's on autopilot. Like I'll just kick into gear, and it's just like I follow a formula of like saying, okay, this is why this narrative is incorrect, and I've said this literally 1,000 times.
We need merch for this. Like some of these need to be on shirts.
Yeah, the
I like
MLA
Zach-
is too much.
I don't like that one. That's not a good one. We're gonna
No, you don't
throw that
support
away.
that one.
All right. Any other narratives that you found from members? I mean, Curtis sort of stole the show. I think we missed a lot of people. Anyone else notice anything?
I'll throw my hat in the ring. I think there's a lot of people I see who really disrespect the execution part of the game, and so they'll like sit there and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna spend 6 hours reviewing. I'm gonna review like every single little detail of every single game, and then I'm gonna play like 5 games a week. Why am I not getting results?" And this isn't like a one-off case. I see it all over the place in MLA and MLA Plus. And that
Theory,
one
but no
kinda
execution, no
aggravates me.
application of understanding.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, gotcha. For me, what I notice is fake process. Like that is something that is a big thing, not only in mid-lane school / mid-lane academy and now mid-lane academy plus. If you feel attacked, I am speaking to you. But speaking as someone like that went through that fake process, like I know the two sides of the coin. Like it is possible to fix that, but that's something that that's not really talked about too much.
Fake process is so hard as well because you don't even know what's happening. And from the outside, like DS, like you would like sometimes we can't see it because they're not telling, you know what I mean? Like we can't say they have a fake process. We only see the end result. It's like, well, you've been stuck at this rank for 5 months and you've had this miserable experience, and then they tell us what's been going on, and you're like, oh yeah, you've got a fake process. But like a lot of the time with the fake process, you can't highlight it or pinpoint it until the failure has already happened, which kind of sucks.
I think that's what's difficult about the League Achievement channels, man, because it's always so squeaky clean. You know what I mean? Like I hit diamond here, I did this. Thank you, MLA. Oh my gosh. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's so squeaky clean.
You don't
there
see
are no
the dirt.
ugly journeys.
No, but even if they did have an ugly journey, a lot of the time you don't see the dirt leading up to that point, that it can be the end result, which they actually maybe did sweat and cry and bleed for, as Nathan likes to sweat over his keyboard. Like that sort of, it could be that, but we don't see that. You just see the end. You're like, oh, you see this amazing result. But yeah, I see what you mean totally.
That's why, like, forever, one of my favorite posts of the entire, like, MLA Plus website will be the Type A versus Type B player post, because it really does make you stop and look at yourself and think, which one am I? Am I actually, like, doing the process, or am I just telling people that I'm doing the process? Am I doing these shallow reviews because I want clout in the MLA Plus, or do I actually want to get better?
Yeah, I'll echo fake process too. There's definitely been like situations with people that I think ended up like flaming out of Saltu, where I'd like hop into a practice dojo and it's, them on a Smurf, where they spend 70% of their games, a league below their actual account, flaming people and stuff like that. It's just like, are we really putting in, not 3 blocking, etc.? Like, are we really actually like bought into what we're doing here?
It's easy to talk about, man.
Even when people like are doing the blocking and like they are doing the reviews and they are doing the reviews with like Nathan or Perry or Sharon, it's like you can still watch it happen where they're just like not like really engaged with it. It's like they go in and you like, I'll sit down on the review sometimes just to like see kind of what other people are doing, and it's like you have some of these people and like every single review they come in, it's like, okay, well, we like didn't gather info here, we didn't gather info here, we didn't gather info here. It's like it's like in one ear and out the other. They're just like not assessing it, and they're like focused on all the wrong shit in their reviews. And it makes it like so hard for them to improve.
So a question for the coach is, how do y'all wrap your head around that? Like when you see clients that have that fake process, or if you can like kind of see it from afar, what do y'all think?
I think, as Curtis said, it's a bit hard to see, but I don't know. I think I've gotten better at picking it up. I mean, it's sort of, it has to be someone that constantly sort of comes to a review session. So it's like, okay, and it's like, okay, we're in the same, like, okay, I see their gameplay. Like, their gameplay looks actually pretty good. They're showing me some very specific VODs. They're very good at nitpicking VODs. These are the people that are really good at nitpicking VODs, Dios. And they're ticking all the boxes. I'm like, okay, so this is what your gameplay looks like. These are the games you're showing me. But why have we even gone down in rank? Like, and this been months? Like, it's like your gameplay, like, what's going on? And then that's where you can call it out and then you can see it. And then I think this is where Curtis evolved, and he just brings up people's OPGGs flat out. And I think that's the easiest way to sort of just call it out. You just look at the facts, the games, the champion pools, the blocks, the time spent.
Yeah, I'll riff on this a little bit. So the way I approach every single coaching session, and it's going to be really, really hard to explain, but basically when you've done thousands of coaching sessions over years, you actually have like kind of like this spidey senses, if you will.
Spidey senses tingling.
So like I when people are talking to me, it sounds really weird, but like I'm actually basically filtering all the information that they're giving me subconsciously. So and like what happens is I'm actually trying to profile the client. Okay. And so there are red flags that go off. It's like, okay, this person brought, even the VOD that I get brought is a piece of information. Now, when someone brings a VOD where they just go 6-0 and we just do a quick little review, that is I guess a noteworthy piece of information. And you know, as I'm asking them questions, like what their response is, how they respond, if they type in the game, just like I'm basically a detective trying to profile that client. And look, I've gotten better over time at identifying it, but also as well, there are clients in the MLA that I know they're not ready to change. And so I'm only motivated to help the people that have a fake process that actually want to kind of change. Like, I feel like I've gotten better at actually not wasting my time and energy anymore. Because I've had so many clients that have just wasted my time. And like, I think I'm way better at just being like, you know what? There are people out there that could use my time a lot better. You're actually just not here to learn. And I don't take it personally anymore. It's like, that's just where they're at in their journey. And I'm going to be here. But so like, I'm really kind of like particular about how I spend my energy nowadays, I would say. So even though that may sound selfish, that's just the reality. I try not to get bogged down.
Yeah, like we'll still do the review for the person that say we don't feel like he's learning, but we will go more above and beyond, and it actually gets us excited and motivated. Like I remember when I was reviewing a lot with Ishan, like Ishan really got me excited with the quality of his questions, the games that we were reviewing, and that actually helped me. Like I would have put more energy to Ishan than maybe another client that like I could just tell again my spidey sense of tingling. It's like, okay, let's do the review. I'll give you some notes, but like. I can.
They're not ready. There's some people just aren't ready to really learn, and the people that are ready to learn, I will give my 110%. I'll go above and beyond. I'll do whatever you need me to do, but I'm not going to do that for people that aren't even going to soak in the learning anyway. And I know they're just nitpicking your VOD, and they're actually barely playing the game. Like, what's the point? So I think that to answer your question, it's like it's really dynamic, and how I respond depends on the client. So yeah, I'll say that's my answer.
I think it's really interesting here from the coach's perspective as well. So thank you.
I think that's why it's so important to have honest friends. Like DZ is one of these friends where DZ will tell you if you're lying about your process. I think you need honest friends who know you on a personal level, who know how much you play, who like are in you in Discord, like even when you're playing, right? They know if you do reviews, right? They know how much effort you're putting in. And if you don't have any honest friends like that, you may yourself not even realize that you have a fake process.
All right, our next prompt here is looking back on your ranked journey, do you have any regrets? This could be you went down a rabbit hole with maybe switching roles, maybe you smurfed, switching champions, playing the meta builds.
Playing in Italy.
That's very classic.
That's disgraceful. That champion needs to be removed. I did a review. I literally had a review. Nathan, you're gonna like this one. So I don't know if anyone was in that one. So basically, it was a Coltron, and he was playing he was playing into I think it was a Victor game, but like he had I can't remember the champion anyway, but the enemy had a Kane and he had a Nidalee. And he was playing ASOL, sorry. And then what ended up happening is like, I'm like, okay, the way this game is going to go, because you have a Nidalee, is that they're either going to go 8-0 or 0-8. The game is all about them. If they play well, you have a chance of winning. If they play poorly, the game is on ultimate hard mode. And I said, I'm actually very biased. I can't actually be objective about this review. I said, I'm compromised. Like, I'm actually compromised. I can't be objective about this game because Nidalee is the shittest champion in the game. And Nidalee, and I said, this is deja vu, invades, dies to the Kane. And I'm like, okay, look, we can win this game. But in my mind, it's over. I know it's not over, but in my mind, like my mental block, it's over. That champion, Eleanor, is absolutely disgraceful. And I've lost so much respect for you.
Is there like a specific place that comes from where you just absolutely hate Nidalee, or?
Because goes to play with it so many times.
Because okay, this is what tilts me about Nidalee, right? Is that what do you play with Nidalee?
Yeah, she's
As a TF player, I love it.
Yeah, I mean, okay, but then it's like we have TF, okay, then we have double AP mid jungle, and they build mercs, okay. Okay,
yeah, so it's like you're basically looking for other main characters. It's like super toxic.
It's like one champ in the game that actually is really good with Nidalee mid. It's like Pantheon.
Right.
Some shit.
What about Jace?
Yeah, Jace. Okay, maybe there's Jace, but then you have no CC.
Yeah.
It's okay, but it's like average. But what I'm saying is like the game is now entirely revolving around Nidalee every time, and I hate that as a jungler. I do not want that.
But you know the scary thing, Curtis, is that Eleanor, I remember your Nidalee journey. We did reviews. We're like, your Nidalee, you're playing really good this game. You know, like you're ticking a lot of boxes, like the good Nidalee games, but it's just the consistency, the hard to replicate that is just so not worth the time and energy and effort.
What got it for me, because like I actually got really good on the champion, but I was bad at jungle. And like that was the disconnect. It's like I was really, really good at fighting on Nidalee. Like
you have to have both.
Again, I'm such a skirmisher, but like I just couldn't do the fundamentals.
But I've got a theory about Nidalee, and this is actually one of my recent coaching breakthroughs. Actually, one of my over the past few months. There are champions in League in all roles that scale with game understanding. Nidalee is a champion that scales with game understanding. So the way Nidalee works is that the better you are at League of Legends, the better you'll be at Nidalee. Because Nidalee is about understanding like everything. You got to understand where to be, anticipation, tracking the jungler, shutting them down. But you can't shut down the jungler if you don't understand the game of League of Legends that well. Like you have to really understand the game well. And as a mid laner, the equivalent is champs like let's say Talia. Talia has like a borderline infinite skill cap. If you're good at League of Legends, you're going to be an amazing Talia player. Hence why the best Talia players are always pro players. The best Azir players are always pro players. The best TF players are always pro players, basically. So champions that scale with game understanding, it's like Lee Sin. In my opinion, Lee Sin scales with game understanding. The best Lee Sin players are pro players. It's the same. It's like there are champs like that. And there was something missing in my interpretation of certain champions. And that was the thing that I kind of reconciled, you know? What do you think about that, Nathan and Ellie?
I think that's like the big thing. Yeah.
I could list out more jungle champs. I think Graves.
Graves, Kindred,
Belveth, I think.
Belveth for sure. Old Xin Zhao when he was much more like snowbally and early game reliant, like just knowing where to be to break a game open was kind of a big thing.
Lee Sin.
Yeah. I mean, Lee Sin, Graves, Nidalee is like the holy trinity, right? Like those are like the three horsemen of the apocalypse for solo queue for jungle.
Yeah, when my team locks them in, I pray they can press buttons.
Yeah. It's like if you have one of the champions that have hands, it's like, oh, like the game feels good, but otherwise like, it's so painful.
That's why all the mid laners hate playing with Graves and Nidalee. That's what you see it all the time.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
Because
somehow the mage needs prio.
It's all about them.
I'm a Zir, and they expect me to invade like level 4. I know.
Yeah, it's like they're forcing you to like do awkward things on your waves to play for prio because like they want to kill the Zac on repeat. It's like.
Sorry, so I saw the show again. So anyway, Eleanor was talking about Nidalee
Regrets.
and
We got
regretting
regrets.
playing Nidalee,
Regrets.
and then yes, regrets.
Yeah, just had his little emotional spiel.
It warped my perspective on the game because like I capped, right? Like I hit Emerald 1 on her, like after struggling for like most of season 13. And like I couldn't reconcile like my lack of understanding of like actually like playing jungle with like how consistently I would break open the early game. Like I'd like always be 2-3, 4-0, like every single game, and then I'd still lose like 45% of my games, and it was just like such a mind fuck, and I like couldn't get over like 50 LP in Emerald 1 because like I just wasn't a good enough jungler. And it like didn't matter how well I played the champion. It's like I'm not kiting properly, like I'm not being at the right place at the right time, like my tempo's fucked here. I'm not at the right objective. I'm forcing this, and it's just like it's so hard to learn the game on a champion like Nidalee, who's like so high APM requirement as well. So it's like it was the worst thing I could have done.
What prompted you to learn her?
It's just fun. That's it. Like fun plus ego. So
I was wondering if you were going to touch on that. I think ego is actually a huge reason why I picked up Aurelia. I looked at Aurel King's montages.
Yeah.
I looked at Aurel King's montage. I was like, huh, I think I can do that.
Yeah. I just love being better than people. Like breaking people's ankles, making them like just want to give up in the moment, like forcing an FF15. Like that's great. That's the best.
Oh yeah, like the mini competitions within the actual game. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I understand that completely. Yep.
All right, regrets. What
I got
regrets? Yep, let's go, Zach.
So one of my regrets is not going to reviews enough consistently. And it's also tied into not focusing enough on my mechanics. Because I'm like, what would you even tell me in the review? Like, you're just getting hit by the Nidalee spear or whatever. Like, you're just not good at fighting. I'm like, okay, like, I guess I'll just keep playing and I'll come back later. And then that just turned into like months.
No, oh, sorry, you go, Logan.
Yeah, I was gonna say a regret of mine is not taking like outside of game stuff as seriously soon enough. I think like when I started plateauing in Diamond, I started taking like really prioritizing like fitness and like sleep quality and things like that a lot more. And something I'm like currently struggling with again, which you can kind of see reflected in my LP. But like I think like the last like 6 months, you could literally like plot an exact LP chart to like how well was I doing on all of the outside the game stuff, that week. It's really night and day. It's like, you see all these pro players where it's like, oh yeah, they just play League 17 hours a day and they just get it done, but like for real humans with like work and things like that, I feel like it's getting all the other stuff like sorted is really important.
I'm gonna say not putting in the time to properly learn my secondary role was a massive hindrance to my solo queue journey, because you can't expect, especially mid lane, right? Because we're the highest picked role. You just can't expect to get it every game, and so having to like either dodge the 25% of my games or just straight up lose them, it's definitely slows down progress a lot to like facing better players. And it's something that's still kind of ish after me because I just play secondary and like lock in Hui at ADC or something without ever actually properly learning the secondary role.
Yeah, that's a good point, and it's funny how I guess maybe that's like a mid versus jungle difference, because I've pretty much never played a single game for my secondary. Maybe like once or twice for like fun when I'm like not taking the game seriously where I shouldn't be. But like I've almost never had to play my secondary role just because jungle is so like uncontested most of the time that you can just play it every single game.
To be honest, I lose a lot of my secondary games. I top secondary. It's like I feel like it's a very hard role to secondary, but at the same time, I learn how important some concepts are. Like I know when to run top to bail out my top laner because he's about to die under turret, or I know when to hover, or I now know how important spacing is, because sometimes 100 units of spacing will be the difference between you being like 20 CS up or dying and being 20 CS down, right? And so even though I lose those games, I feel like in the overall learning journey, they help me a lot.
I just want to talk a bit more about the secondary for Kai'Sa, because a lot of our audience is not playing in the higher ranks masters here, and they probably will get their role most of the time. Because for me as well, that would be a regret over the last couple of seasons as well, is not properly learning support. I could have easily hit 1000 LP, but the biggest thing held me back was just all these Nautilus games that I'll just completely just inting off my face. Like I think I had a 44, 42, I think I was a 40% win rate on my Nautilus and Karma. But that's probably more important for Master Plus. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. Because you just have such a large volume of players below Masters that you're kind of bound to get into a game. But in Masters Plus, you're definitely competing for your role every time you queue, and especially if you queue in like off hours. You try to play NA Masters like 9 a.m. block, 10 a.m. block. It's just very unlikely that I get into a consistent game or I get like 20-minute queue timers.
But I've heard differently. Honestly, I've heard people in my below plat program that they don't get mid sometimes. So I would disagree. I would say I'm not saying you have to put a lot of time into your secondary role, but I would say at some stage,
effort.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I see it all. Like you're gonna get, in my opinion, if you're a mid laner, you're gonna get 20% of your games probably in your secondary role. Like I think even in platinum. So personally, from what I've heard, anyway.
In my personal experience, the higher volume of players playing actually decreases the amount of mid games I get. So if I'm playing like peak hours, plat and below, I'll never get mid. I'll get mid 50% or less of the time. But if I'm playing like D2 plus and I'm playing on off hours, I'll almost always get mid, as long as I'm not letting the queue time get like 6 minutes plus.
I've actually had more like off-roll games, even as a jungler, like playing on off hours, because I think like to talk about like player like queue pop, like because there's less players, like it's like the whole priority role, like actual spread of who's playing what, like actually is significantly different enough. Like I get mid a ton if I like play in the morning.
So it seems to just be like personal experience then, because everyone's kind of saying different things on this one.
I also think another difference could be also the roles. With lower volume of players, the chances are a lot different. So like jungler would probably be more likely to be off-rolled, but like mid, it is probably like very personal experience.
I'm always on roll if I play during peak, because there's like no junglers and there's a ton of mid laners, ton of AD carries, ton of top laners. It's like, yeah.
Any other regrets from anyone here to contribute?
I mean, I already spoken it briefly, but just learning Aurelia the way I did. Not learning Aurelia, but learning Aurelia the way I did. I approached it very egotistically, even if I didn't think so at the time, because in my head, oh, just like, Aurelia dashes, she's super fun. She has really cool montages. She's capable of solo killing very easily in lane in a vacuum. You can even 1v2 if you know it's coming. But what I did was I just spammed games of it instantly in like D2 MMR, no guides, no practice tool, no nothing. And it was possibly one of the worst things I've ever done for my rank journey. It sent me back so much time, man. Like people sometimes use it as like as an inspiration, like, oh my god, DZ, like you really buckle down, you work so hard and now you're there. I look at them and I'm like, bro, like I took probably 3 times as long as it needed to.
I was identical to you, Dios. I was going to say that's one of my biggest regrets was I spoke about this recently, my Kiana journey. I was egotistical and tried to learn Kiana myself. And it was just so much more painful than it needed to be. All I needed to do was have a little bit of guidance, talk to someone who was a Kiana main, and my life would have just been a trillion times easier. And like, I'm just like, it was just ego. It's like, oh, I want to do it my way. It's just like, no, it's the biggest waste of time. I did not need to do that.
I should have spoken to Necklace sooner. So I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
If there was just a little bit of guidance in the beginning.
Just a bit. Yeah. Even just a bit, like just a little bit. I totally agree.
Yep. Same page.
Ishan, did you have any regrets I don't know if you mentioned one.
I can share like a quick one. I think one of my big regrets was probably, and I have a controversial opinion on this because I believe that OTPing is the best way to climb, but I know that not necessarily the one that you guys share. But I definitely regret playing other champions than Evelynn. Like I had cycle, like champion cycles, I guess, where I would try 50 games of Rek'Sai or 50 games of Hecarim, and pretty much every time I felt like that really just held me back and made my journey slower than it had to be, as opposed to if I just spent those 50 games playing Evelynn and learning more about the game. So I definitely regretted wasting time playing other champs.
Yeah, I guess so. Ishan, Eleanor, you guys both fully one-tricked your journeys, and Logan with Vi, was it pretty much only Vi, Logan?
Yep.
So I think maybe it could be more of a jungle specific.
Yeah, I think jungle's different, definitely
Yeah.
different.
Because there's no the matchup stuff, right? Like you know, as Eleanor said, she could go through a game and like counter matchup and be completely fine. Like that's part of the champ master. Same with me for a lot of my matchups and champs as well. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting.
I think because you can avoid fighting if you need to on jungle, it makes it really possible to OTP.
I just play the map, yeah, and then just take good fights. All right, next question here. What is one invisible concept in League that you wish more people knew about? So something not intuitive. Curtis, you added this question. What sort of invisible concepts?
Yeah, what I mean by this is something that's not exactly like, okay, when you think of like normal concepts in League, you think of like something just win cons, like warding and like something just very tangible, easy to understand. This may, not everyone might have an answer to this, but if people do, an example may be like, something very, very like, just reading body language or something, something like that. Something that's just not exactly really obvious and kind of not really tangible for a lot of people,
Yeah, I think maybe, I don't know if this counts, but I would say that pinging and communicating through pings with your teammates, I think would be a big one for me. Like a lot of times you'll see maybe you're on the top side of the map, at least from the jungle perspective, and then your bot lane dies to a gank. And it seems very clearly that there was nothing you could have done. And I feel like a lot of people don't realize that maybe just pinging your bot lane, that the enemy jungler's bot lane, would stop them from dying. And that could be what it takes to like avoid you from losing the game or like something really bad happening. And I think maybe that's something that people don't realize is like pinging, because like if you ping and nothing happens, you don't really get rewarded for it. So it doesn't seem like you really did anything. When I mean, in reality, you did. And so I would say that's a big one.
I think going off that, like predictable timing windows is kind of something that like doesn't get, I think, enough attention from people. Probably more for laners than for us, but like everyone knows like 530 waves, like when solos hit 6, right? Like stuff like that's really basic, but just like understanding like roughly when junglers are going to be on the map if you don't pull them out of their clear is like kind of a big thing. Like watching laners die to consistent like end of full clear ganks is like the weirdest thing for me. Like as a jungler, it's like, why are you like, you should know that I'm going to be here. Like, you know that your jungler is pathing away from you. Like, why are you trading like you're on strong side? Like, I can be here or should be here. It's like just weird.
I was going to say, like holding TP, like having TP available, like holy moly, especially in powered TP. Like for example, like post 10 minutes, people using TP back to lane. It's like, okay, well, here you went down 3 CS, but actually had your empowered TP available. Even though some games you're not going to get rewarded for it, kind of like Ishan was saying, it's like, well, but when that happens, it's like, wow, that can be actually a complete game changer, especially when you're playing skirmish oriented, particular champions, whether it be, like Echo. All right, Echo would be a great example of that. But if there's not many others, feel free to move on, Nathan.
Do you think holding abilities in general would be an invisible concept?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, because I know I've talked with a lot of the lower elo MLA players, like as a mentor, I've talked about them. Yeah, it's patience. And actually, I played 2 games versus Meta recently, and he talked about it in general, where you told him and AJ told him and I told him after versing him is he has no patience. It's the second you get into his engage range, he blows all his abilities on Syndra, and then he's just like a sitting duck. And all I needed to do to win that game was walk slightly into his range and then walk back. He blew all his stuff, and then I just like my jungler ganked him, or I zero second or something. Just holding abilities in general, something that's really not talked about, but it is so important in the difference between like a high elo and a low elo player.
Yeah, I would say like saying no to plays I get flamed for a lot, where it's just kind of like, XYZ thing, like, oh, why didn't you gank for me right here? This is a clear kill. But I know that by doing this, like, the jungle is going to kill my wincon bot lane, like, example things. Or, like, we're going to get this kill, but then we'll have both of our ults down for, the Drake. And, the way my champ wants to play is stack Drakes kind of stuff. It's, like, those kind of things that you can't really explain to someone in a game that, like, can mental boom people.
Like, the idea that kills are fake. Like,
yeah, kind of,
Call of Duty, like, I don't care that I can kill top here, like, Dragon matters more, or like you're not the win con. Like it's Ornn versus Cassandra top. Like who cares? Like why am I gonna go there? Like I don't care that his flash is down.
Like learning to say no.
Yeah.
To players is just so big. Climbing is half the plays you make, but also half the plays you say no to, and the plays that you don't make. And notice how all these things we're talking about, whether it's not ganking that lane or holding those abilities or not using TP, it's always not doing it or is sometimes even more powerful. I know, Nathan, you've been a massive advocate of holding abilities. That's been something you focus on a lot in your program.
Yes. Whenever I make a jungle guard, I realize that most of it just comes down to just holding abilities, which has been a very interesting realization. Because the intuitive thing for everyone starting playing League, okay, fight's happening, smash keyboard, bam. Here we go. Let's see what happens. Hopefully I hit it,
I think... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that in terms of going on about the say no to plays, the sort of the next level is like in League, there's low impact kills and high impact kills. That's really, because again, the intuition is like, okay, I kill someone, good things generally happen. Like I get to push in a wave and recall, I get to get a target objective, but there is, especially the higher rank you go, like a kill can actually mean, you use all your ults. Now you don't have a dragon, you guys decide to fight it, you lose four people die, so I think that's a really hard invisible concept to grasp.
Yeah, I feel like we spent like 2 or 3 months where every review for me would just be like, do you think that this ult was a good Vi ult? Was this high impact? End of review. Get out of here.
Done.
It like even happens sometimes if the kill's like free too, and it's like you send them back to base faster than they could have recalled if you just chunk them, and they show up to the drag fight with an item, and then you lose the game. Even if you like blow no abilities, like you still have your ult, you still have your flash, and you just lose because you killed them. It's like super wild.
Yeah, like super advanced stuff is like you go down bot as a jungler, you chunk the AD carry support. You get their flash, but you don't overcommit, and then you build up a wave and you slowly bleed them out, and you're able to deny 2-3 minion waves rather than just one minion wave, So that's, we're talking about really more advanced stuff here. It's like, I actually don't want to kill the person right now. I would rather kill this person the next 30 seconds so they lose more experience and gold.
Sometimes I'll trade ultimate for that purpose. If I stack a wave and I get them really low, they can't stay under tower. I didn't kill them, but they can't stay under tower.
Exactly. Yeah.
For me, one invisible concept that I wish more people knew about, or at least considered, is like the concept of finite resources on the map, finite turns, which leads to like weak side and strong side. But the thing is, like, ego within people's play and play styles is so prevalent that, for example, like say an ADC, and it's an ADC meta. So they want the entire game to revolve around them, even though our jungler is clearly pathing to the topside matchup that they have to affect early. Otherwise, it's going to bite us in the ass later, And from me as a mid laner, I'm seeing the strong side, weak side, but then I try to make a play weak side. And I lose the game through that. Because I blew my one turn, my own assets on the weak side, and now their bot is more than strong enough to handle whatever we prepared for mid game and late game. You know what I mean? It's just stuff like that.
Or like making 2 plays at once as a team.
Oh yeah, like trying to spread your resources one side and then something's happening here.
Yeah. Again, finite resources is
such a huge thing.
Yeah. The idea is finite resources and time. Yeah, time is such a huge resource in League. Tempo. It's like tempo, right?
So The thing that I'm really passionate about right now in League actually is an invisible concept. I didn't even think of it. It's holding space. And I feel like holding space is such a broad concept, but I love it so much right now because it goes into holding abilities, right? So like on cast, I can hold space for my ADC just by standing on them and not ulting anyone, right? Like no one's going to walk into him. He's going to be able to basically freely auto the whole game. Like in my best games on cast, I'm barely doing any damage because no one can just walk into my ADC and they're just rolling over the game. But it also goes into way more than that with holding space because, for example, if you shove in mid and you have prio and you're just off the map, all of a sudden you're holding space for your other lanes because ganking them is going to be way more risky. It's going to be harder. Like the enemy laner might not feel as comfortable just walking up. And I mean, I didn't even think of it, but it is just an invisible concept. It's really difficult to like see the spaces in team fights, for example, in pro play. But a lot of the time in pro play, ADCs won't even be able to walk up and auto for an entire fight because there's an ability like Orialt or Syndra E that is just being held the entire time. And the space is being held so expertly that no one can do anything about it. And another champion that does this really well without doing any damage is Akali. And Eevee from the MLA actually introduced me to this because Akali can just sit in Shroud for an entire team fight and just never do anything. And an ADC just won't be able to walk in ever. It's such an interesting concept that has such a big like impact on the game that I don't think a lot of people realize when it's happening.
The video the Mysterios put out about zone control and holding space a couple of weeks ago is really, really good to anyone who hasn't seen it from the MLA Plus. I definitely recommend giving that one a watch.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I actually hadn't thought about that, so we'll definitely look at that.
Especially as an Evelyn player, by the way. The most annoying Evelyn players are the ones that don't show on the map. And so then as a mid laner, I can't shove side. I don't know where the hell Evelyn is. And so Evelyn has like, I always say, because everyone hates Evelyn in my program, right? It's like kind of like a mental block champ. But what happens in mid game? It's like, well, the passive of Evelyn is she can be everywhere at once. She could be top, she could be bottom, she could be mid. No one. And so if Evelyn doesn't show, then everyone has to play as if she's there trying to kill them, and it's so annoying.
Yeah.
So annoying.
If I haven't seen her for 20 seconds, I have to sit under turret. Like that,
Yeah.
I just don't have a choice.
Unplayable.
Holding space is like such a good checkmate condition, like for playing the game. Like it's so massive.
And notice how qualified, Sam, what you said before about, your best games with Cassia is when you do like not much damage. What a mindfuck that is for people. Like people think that question, oh, I didn't do much damage this game, or should I, the whole stats thing. Like, everything we're talking about here has nothing to do with KDA, like KDA at all. Won't be represented in your KDA, won't be represented in your stats, won't be represented in your damage at all. It's crazy.
Actually reminds me of looking at my stats. I found that on average, I deal lower damage than usual compared to people in my elo. And I'm wondering how I was climbing.
I tend to be a really low damage Briar player because like I'll just sit on top of my backline and hold Q. And then like how can anyone play? Like I can just shred their armor by 50% and their MR by like 30. Like how can you dive my backline?
I think there was a game I played in around 200 LP where I lost the game because I didn't hold space. We had hit 35 minutes. Everyone was on 4+ items, and I'm playing Aurelia, so of course I'm going to blow up if I go. But in my head, I'm sticking to the concept of dive. I got to dive. I'm Aurelia. I'm diving. So my back line and my front line is playing back, peeling for the Jhin that I have on my team, but I'm just staring at their back line. I don't hold space. I don't control space. I just see my angle. I R flash in, and we lose because I get blown up instantly, and then their backline moves in. As opposed to if I just stared at them, literally pressed S key, stare at them, dare them to make the move. You know what I mean? And force them to walk through my pressure, as opposed to blowing my entire kit and now giving them that opening to move through. That's something that I had to look at that team fight. I'm like, damn, I don't dive here. I just stand right there. I don't do anything. I just stand there.
Like not doing anything and not trying to make plays, not trying to make anything happen, just like letting the game happen is like such an underrated thing, honestly.
All right, next one here. You guys are probably expecting this. Has League of Legends taught you anything you have applied to other areas of your life? We talked a bit about Logan. You mentioned about, you've really tried to get your sleep, health, fitness in check. So with Isham, with the gym. anything, in general?
So for me, processes have always been a really big part of my life. But I never have, I guess, dove into making a healthy habit out of anything, right? But I really need healthy habits to function as a person. And I didn't have, I think, a single healthy habit until I started watching the BBC and joined the MLA and got into the habit of things. So class was the big one for me, where I really felt the impact of the BBC, because beforehand I would just it would be whatever, right? I would just sort of do class. Sometimes I'd wait for the due date, all that kind of stuff. And then when classes would get really hard, because I mean, there was a point in computer science where like I started falling behind, right? Because I was just doing it on the due date. But because of the BBC, now I have a process of I do a game, I do homework, I do a review, I do a game, do homework, do a review, right? And I keep doing that over and over again. And it's made me not only just better at like class in general, but at everything in life. I'm working out more now, I'm eating healthier, I'm sleeping better, just because I have this process down. And even when I quit League someday, right, I will still have that beautiful process down that whatever I want to do, I'm going to be able to do it successfully.
I'm curious how many people here are like engineers or computer scientists, because that seems to be a very common it's literally like it seems to be very common, at least in people in Cell 2 and like people.
I'm actually pursuing an associate's in computer science.
Yeah, there you go. It's like almost 90% of this call already.
I'm about to start my master's in aerospace.
Okay, bro, chill, relax.
Sorry, a little flex just there.
Biomedical engineering, try to do like put robot hands on people. That's the end goal. So
Victor?
yeah, basically, yeah, cyberpunk Victor, you know, it works.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as Qualified, where kind of the biggest impact that League had was forcing me to adopt healthy processes to succeed. Right? It's building like a structure, building a schedule, building a habit. And it's like once it started kind of happening, once I started like needing that to succeed in League, I also realized that I needed it to succeed in like my classes. I needed to succeed in my home life, right? So that was the biggest thing for me.
Mine was learning to learn. Like, for example, when I go do a review, I just try to keep it quick and like short and concise. Then later on, I'll look for like trends, and then I'll go back and I'll like try to reverse engineer what caused that.
Go for it.
Oh yeah. I think this is like the first point, like when I started getting into League and like wanting to, because like when I played StarCraft, I was in like high school and I had a lot of free time. When I first started like casually playing League, I had a lot of free time in college, and like trying to actually like exceed at like a lot of different things, like still have a social life, play enough League, etc. Like succeed at work was the first time I actually had to get into like the learning how to optimize like, you know, process. So like the same thing with sleep, but also just like how do I actually be more productive at all these things and juggle them the right way, which I think you guys have already referenced like a lot of the source material books and stuff like Deep Work and all those other things. But yeah, just actually having an impetus to get into that was very eye-opening.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with that. And I think for me, one of the biggest things, and I want to give accolades to Nathan for this, because I think he definitely changed my life in more ways than one. But I think one of the biggest things for me is just that the game gave me a level of confidence that I didn't have before. Just knowing that I can be good at something that I choose like of my own accord, like I can be very good at something, is something that applies to other things as well. Because I mean, once you've reached, I mean, I'm not going to say master tier is like the top. I mean, there's you know, you can go as far as you want, but if you can get really good at one thing, then, you know, you have that confidence where you can apply those same processes. You know, like I can probably get good at other things as well if I follow the same process, I put in the same amount of time, dedication, etc. It doesn't feel like there are things that are out of your reach anymore. And I think that was a really big thing for me.
It's like a mindset shift. And that's why I think League is is such a beautiful game because, you know, most people, especially in the West, have access to a computer. League is free. It's, you know, you don't have to go out, you know, and buy all this, you know, equipment. You know, let's say, you know, like, I think traditional sports absolutely fantastic as well for building that confidence in young people specifically. But, you know, I think League and gaming in general is just that awesome, and League specifically is that awesome middle ground where it's like, okay, I can actually put in effort, get good at something, know what it feels like to learn, as Zach was saying, learn how to learn. I think it's just so incredible that we have this game available, that it gives us the opportunity to even, you know, Ishan saying this, you know, to give us the vehicle to do this.
Yeah, and I think the rank ladder is also really important for that because, I mean, like you said, for traditional sports, it's really hard to know how good you are at like a traditional sport because you don't really have anything to compare with outside of maybe the people that you play with locally. But for League, like, you know, like, I am this good at the game. I am like relative to other people. And so, like, I mean, of course you should always be comparing to yourself, but at least, you know, like, there's something about the rank ladder that's really special to League that other teams don't have.
Yeah, actually, I've never thought of it that way, but you're right. That's a huge advantage. You know, you don't really know, you know, in the local leagues and stuff growing up because, you know, you can see literally half the percent of the entire world. You know, that's crazy to think about. Again, it's very rare that we've had this in human history.
Another big one, which is a little bit similar to League, would be like chess, right? Where chess has a really long history. The thing about chess, though, is it doesn't have the complexity in the application, right? So when I play chess and I get like good at chess, I mean, like my past is mainly in chess, right? I played a lot of chess. That was like my competitive environment. Chess allows you to look at things one-dimensionally, right? You see one line, you see one set of things, right? And then you can start branching out off from this thought, right? League is you have to stay open-minded. You have to be able to communicate well, right? You have to be able to look at your team. You have to be able to apply everything around you, right? And I've been able to use this so much more in my real life than I've been able to use chess because chess is just like not complicated enough, to be honest.
It also, chess isn't chaotic. There's no RNG. There's no one else to deal with. It's 100% the decision you make will have this outcome and like no really other outcome. It's just adapting and dealing with chaos that really makes, I think, League so special in this case.
I think for me, I was actually going to lead with learning how to learn because I didn't have that. I didn't understand that growing up. I just kind of coasted through school. And it was only until like coming face to face with the process and fully internalizing it that I was able to understand that learning how to learn is actually a skill in of itself. But what I want to touch on, since that was already covered, is emotional regulation. Counterintuitively, when you think of League of Legends. But I struggled very heavily and still do with anger issues from when I was younger up until through my 20s until now. And I would always just accept it as like a matter of fact. When something would happen and I would be angry or emotional or upset, I'd just be like, oh, I'm just an angry person, man. This is what I got to deal with. But what League taught me is that whenever stuff like that would happen, I'd be like, this isn't helping me win. This doesn't feel good. I don't like externalizing my lack of success onto other factors that aren't consistently within my games. How can I fix this? Why are these guys succeeding? Why is he more emotionally stable than I am in game? How can I replicate that? How can I be better? League made me ask myself in earnest, how can I be a better person?
Yeah, that's powerful. I get, and what you just done there, Dios, is asking high quality questions. You know, you're just asking these questions. Just simply just goes so far as a human. You know, it's like a lot of the people that come into the Soul to or come and write into the mailbag. It's like I never really thought about that. So like, you know, how could I control my emotions better in my game? It's like a question that people wouldn't ask. You know, again, as you say, you know, especially for League, or how can I learn this better? How can I be more efficient with my process? How can I review my games? So I think it's a really good one.
Yeah, I resonate with Dios a lot actually because, you know, I think I'm the same as Dios where I had a really fixed mindset. I didn't know how to learn, and I thought everything was just talent, and you just get born with a set of abilities. even though it sounds ridiculous, but that's how I believe. And it really caused me a lot of mental health issues. And I think that as well, just League is this medium that allowed me to actually explore the complexities of myself, and I think that because League's so fun, right? It's like this game that's so fun, but it's so challenging. It's this perfect combination. It's like a medium that allows you to, it incentivizes you to want to figure this shit out. Because the reality is that it's so hard to get motivated to even think like this in any other medium. I mean, I personally wasn't really passionate about anything else as much as I was gaming, right? And so it's like the vehicle that it allows you or kind of forces you to ask these tough questions and figure shit out. So yeah, I resonate. I'm the exact same as Dios, essentially.
I think that leads into like one of my two things. Like the first one definitely being that like coming to like actually like fully believe that I'm capable of like changing as a person. Like I definitely had like a very fixed mindset of like, oh, this is like what I'm capped at. This is what I can do. This is what I can't do. And like I was very limited in how like I approached myself. And like getting into like trying to be like more serious about League and like going from being like a permanently never above platinum 1 like player to like climbing all the way to masters like really helped break that. And then the other thing that I'm like definitely still struggling the most with, I think, is like learning to decouple like your identity from like your performance and behavior. Like just because you do something poorly in a moment, or just because like you've been to like a certain level of play or like competition or anything, like it doesn't make you on a value level more or less of a person. And like that's something that I think is like really hard for a lot of people as well.
I want to touch on that as well as like, again, someone that's struggled and still working on anger issues actively. Just because you said something out of anger, or you flamed your teammate out of anger, that moment doesn't define you. Of course, like accept it for what it is. It's not great, but take that as an opportunity to not do it again. Be just look at that and learn from your mistake, because it is a mistake. Losing your emotions in that sense, losing your control, it's something that can be improved upon. You don't always have to be that person. You don't always have to just accept that you're going to lose your shit if every single lane loses. Like we can work on this. I promise you can work on this.
I love League of Legends. What was one thing you learned about yourself while trying to get better at League? 'Cause we sort of touched on this, I guess, already, but I guess to expand on this, just one thing you learned about yourself specifically.
I'm not a very resilient person. Like when things are going well, it's very easy to keep it up. When things start to go bad, like the cracks in, I guess like my sense of self and like my self confidence like really show very quickly, and that's like probably the biggest thing that I have to work on, like as a person and like as a player, obviously, because it definitely leads to like some of the huge swings I've had.
Do you feel like that's not something that you knew beforehand, and like League shining a light on that gives you the chance to work on that, or is that something that you've known even like before?
I didn't know it's as that. I guess I like hadn't come to terms with like the severity of it. Like I knew this like kind of going in, like this has always like sort of been a personal problem, and like even doing like the military thing, like it was always one of the harder things for me. But like doing something like League where it's really you versus yourself, and then like watching how quickly like you can crumble mentally over like really small stuff that at the end of the day doesn't actually matter. Like League is great, it's a great game, I love playing it, but like it doesn't actually affect my life. I'm not doing it for a career, like it's just for me. And like watching how much that affects me, just it's just very eye-opening. Like it's one thing to like know a problem's there, and like another thing to be like staring at the fire, you know.
So for me, League actually has done a lot for me recently. Not over like the entire lifetime of the game, right? Because I've been playing for a really long time. I haven't been improving over the vast majority of my time playing. But there was a really long time where I thought I just couldn't get good at anything, to be honest. And like my effort wouldn't matter. There was just nothing I could do. And I didn't understand how important putting time into something was and the quality of the time you put in, right? But League has really like taught me that my effort matters, right? And I can get good at things, and the amount of time I put in matters. And people will respect what I say if I put in the time and stuff, because I think my life was in a pretty like rough spot, honestly, before like I got into the BBC mindset in League. And now that I can improve in League, like I understand that I've learned that I can get good at anything I want to. It's not just like my natural ability to do it.
Yeah, I'm thinking about one thing specifically, as you said, sort of using the word time. I don't know if this is like a self-defense mechanism, me saying this or whatever, but I feel like League taught me that I'm actually a slow learner. But like I use that as like a positive thing, like an embrace. It's like, okay, I'm a slow learner. Let's say other people are fast learners. If I really embrace this, like, okay, if I put in more effort, it's going to take me longer to get good at this, but the sort of the process that I build at getting good at League or a craft or a skill or anything is going to be better than other people's, if that makes sense. Like I think that I'm actually a slow learner, and it takes me a lot of time, but I love the time aspect of things. Like I know that if I just keep chipping away at it, I will get results. I'm like super confident with that. And League sort of taught me that in a way.
Yeah, I think I'm in the exact same boat as that, where like before I didn't understand it, but now I'm like, I might be a slow learner, but once I learn it, I really learn it.
Yes,
I really understand
exactly
it.
right. Yeah, like I'll be like fucking like insane, best in the world, But like that's what excites me, Like I think it'll be boring to be a fast learner, if anything. It's like, I don't know how that works. Like, I haven't really studied this, learning that much in terms of psychology, but.
League kind of like held up a mirror to me, and it showed me what it looks like when I'm faking it. Like when I'm faking putting in effort and when I'm faking putting in the time and kind of just bullshitting myself, because I can see, like I learned the difference between putting in quality time and pulling quality effort versus just autopiloting, mindless, just grinding away. And it's definitely also made me look back on like the past projects I've done and the future projects that I'm gonna do, and what the difference between like my best self and my worst self kind of looks like.
So Lee, you would say that basically the statement there, Kaiser, is that Lee taught you about yourself that you bullshit yourself a lot.
League showed me what it looks.
For me.
It did, right? What League did is it showed me what it looks like when I'm bullshitting myself. I learned what I can spot it now. When I write something down, I can look at it. I can come back to it the next day and can be like, yeah, this is shit. Like I'm not actually putting in quality effort here. When previously I'd be like, yeah, this is fine.
Yeah, I would say it's the exact same thing for me. Yeah, it's definitely like you have a really sharp sense, or I feel like I have a sharper sense of like, yeah, when is this like actual true effort, and like all the things around it too, like all the outside game things, etc. Like you can really feel the difference when you're actually like putting in 100% effort.
Yeah, I resonate with that as well. I feel like I never really understood what gaming was, like what it was in my life. Like I think my whole journey, even with Nathan and Direwolves, and then like doing this whole thing, I never really understood. Like I always thought, kind of in a weird way, and it sounds ridiculous, but like when I was younger, that gaming was just a waste of time. Like I thought when I was in high school that like it was just a hobby, but it was actually like it was not important. But then as I got older, I actually realized how important gaming was for me, and it actually was like the pillar of my life. Like as in there was actually nothing else going for me. Like as sad as it sounds, like I just felt like I was like, it was the only thing that I had a remote sense of self-esteem in. It was the only thing that gave me some sort of confidence. Like, I just thought I was so insecure and such like I just felt like I was such a loser in every aspect of my life apart from League. And then really, like, League taught me about who I am, I guess. It was actually just showed me who I am, like who I actually am. And so it really allowed me to discover myself. So that's like what I would say.
Yeah, that's powerful. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that's the biggest reason why I was so passionate to cover a lot of the psychology aspect of League, because it actually allowed me to understand myself. And I'm like, holy shit, there are so many people out there that, I've seen it with, especially like, people, they say, oh, wow, your content, I really resonated with it. And as I started like making that content, I realized how many people actually fell in the same boat as myself. And like how many people can actually develop confidence and growth mindset and actually, like as DL said, like self-love, self-appreciation through League, like was huge. Like I had zero self-love and self-appreciation, and League actually allowed me to kind of, in a way, like appreciate myself and like, oh wow, actually I've put a lot of time into this. I actually am pretty good, and I've actually put in some time into this, and I can, figure out who I am, I guess. And I just think that that's huge, and that's a huge motivating factor for like why working with people and helping people with those problems was massive. I think Nathan for the same, right? Nathan, you're kind of same. League, like gaming was a pillar of. I think that's why me and you, Nathan, kind of maybe bonded, which is like we both realized that gaming is like the only thing that we have for ourselves.
Yeah.
I think that's so interesting. That reminds me of like, what is it? Jiro Dreams of Sushi, almost, where it's like selfless, absorbed pursuit of mastery of craft, whatever you choose, or like, for example, Kobe Bryant and his limitless love for basketball, where you give it everything you have. You give it absolutely everything you have, and you get so much more in return.
Yeah, it could be anything.
Yeah,
right?
it could be anything. Yeah, It's just like the one thing me and Nathan has happened to go down the rabbit hole of gaming and League of Legends.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the media. That was it. That is it for for us. Like for me especially, it was just that was it. Without it, but I again, it was so. But how ironic was it that it was the only thing for me? But it took me so long to recognize that it was the thing. Like I thought it was the bit. Like I had my whole life backwards. Like I thought everything that wasn't important to me, League was, I thought was the thing that wasn't important was, and everything that I thought wasn't. Like I had literally everything in my life backwards. And I guess that's what also League taught me, which is so ridiculous as well. It's so silly.
It's funny it works that way, isn't it?
Yeah.
For me, maybe to lighten the mood a little bit, I don't know, it depends on how y'all take it. I learned that I am abnormally stubborn. Abnormally stubborn. If I can tell you the amount of people that have approached me to learn Aurelia and have instantly dropped Aurelia after like 50 games, they're like, damn man, like I'm like 40% win rate on Aurelia, and I'm just sitting there and I tell them, you realize that I played for 2 years with like a 40% win rate, right? I kept telling people that over and over as a means to like motivate them. I'm like, nah, man, if I can do it, you can do it. And I just kept running into person after person that would just quit. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's not them. Maybe I am just abnormally stubborn. And this is a strength that can power me through the hardest times in life.
I think that's like Nathan in a way. I actually think Nathan's like that. Like it's funny seeing Nathan, like because Nathan, you're as you said before, you realize that you're kind of a slow learner, but you're also very patient. And like it's like maybe it's manifesting in a different way to you. You're stubborn, but you're patient, but patience in a way that's like more. I guess maybe you can't let it go. But Nathan, I guess you're patient in the sense that it's like you'll just sit there until you figure it out. you know, even if it takes you years.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I like the David Goggins quote. He says that he'll sit there and watch grass grow. You know, that's a really good one. The little saying that I live by.
I like that. So like different, like the same idea, but different motivations to get there. For me, it was literally just I started this, I'm fucking finishing it. That's what pushed me through even the dark days, man. Like I remember some days I would literally lie down on the couch, like, what the hell am I doing, bro? I'm late 20s, like really struggling on this champion. What is going on? You know, but we stuck through it and now we're here. So
Zach, did you have anything you learned about yourself about getting better at League?
Yeah, I think I got one. It's a little bit different. Something I learned while playing League is you gotta be okay with like looking stupid. Like,
cool, big fan of.
Like I kind of struggled with that. I'm like, nah, I don't want to go for that. Like, I'm just gonna fail. I'm gonna look dumb. But you really just got to go for it and just learn.
once you learn how to mute people and it becomes muscle memory, you're fine.
Oh, I turn off chat every game.
Zach's a true MLR. That's the true MLR Curtis is shedding a tear right there. All right, I think that was everyone. That ends our 11 prompts, the 11 questions we had. Sort of again to sort of lighten the mood here at the end, we want to do some really quick rapid fire questions here. The way that this will work is you can only say one word response. The first thing comes to mind. All right, so you guys ready? What we'll do, we'll go down. So we'll go qualified, Kaiser, Zach, Ali, Logan, Dios, and Ishan. All right, first rapid fire question here. Again, one word. First thing that comes to mind. Who is the best champ in the game that isn't in your role?
Rek'Sai.
Rek'Sai, okay. I mean, you guys can think a little bit, but that was good. That's definitely the first thing that came to qualify.
I say we unmute for this one. I say
No,
we
this
unmute.
Is it that the first thing came to mind is Italy?
Yeah, done. Zach?
I didn't even think of a champion. I just thought of apples.
That's it. I don't know if that relates to any sort of champion. It's like an apple. Come on, Zach. What's a champion? The game.
Ash.
Hello?
Sorry.
Cassante.
Graves.
Gallia.
Galio. You said Galio, Ishan.
Yeah, it's so
I
fun
love
to play
Galio.
Galio. The game feels so easy when you play with Galio, I feel like.
That's so fair.
All right. Who is your favorite member of the Mid Lane Academy or Soltu that isn't in this call? Sort of
That's
putting you
so
guys on the
hard.
spot here.
Zenji.
Never saw.
10.
Wait, which Tim?
The coach.
Oh,
I like talking to him.
yeah.
Holy shit.
Oh, rapid fire.
This is rapid
Damn.
fire. What is this?
Fuck.
Yeah,
I guess Shane.
I'll say Jonah.
Russ.
Emil.
I can't wait for you guys to get the messages saying, "Thank you, saying me. I feel so bad." That's fine.
I'm gonna get
You guys-
It's so over. I'm gonna
Holy
get like
shit.
5.
I'm getting like 7 messages.
Yeah, I was not expecting that question.
All
Let's
right.
go over it.
Who would win at least in 1v1? Me or Curtis?
Curtis.
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 Curtis, we've seen the clip.
Curtis.
I have to say Nathan, man. Like it's just a
Okay,
a
DC, I
landslide.
got
You
that
haven't seen the
line.
clip. You haven't seen the clip.
You haven't seen Rippy's mad mechanics. Like that video.
There is a video on YouTube of me playing.
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
We're
You gotta
not-
show Dios the video.
Oh, okay.
no.
I guess I'll say, and then Dios's answer will probably change. All right. How long do you think you'll play League for?
Great question.
Probably like 8 more years.
Until I hit my goal of best out of North America.
You got to give us years, Kaiser. Tell us. It could be months, weeks. Are you going to play for weeks? Is it going to be weeks?
At least 10. If it's still going, 10 years.
10 years, done.
10 years.
As long as servers are up.
2 or 3
years.
You gotta give years.
Years, Eleanor.
10 plus. 10 plus.
2 or 3, Logan?
10 because League of Legends 2 will come out.
Yeah, like 100. Same as all.
100 years. Love it. We're going to be playing... I always say I can't wait to be playing League in like my retirement home. Like I'll create like a team. You know,
The
like,
LAN parties are gonna go
LAN
crazy.
parties. Yeah.
It's gonna be so good.
And I'll just like create this.
I'm about
like,
to see, man. I'll be wearing my diaper in the middle.
All right. Do you have a personal? What is your personal solo queue mantra? It can be a word, sentence.
You don't do what you want. You do what you can, and that's enough.
Don't be a dick.
Wake up. What are you doing?
Because we follow the climb must be our destination from Pantheon, the champion.
Would I make this decision in 500 games?
My belief is stronger than your doubt.
Yeah, just have fun.
Last one here. If you were to tell a new player one thing about the game before starting, what would it be?
People are going to be mean.
In the long run, you're the only one who matters.
Turn off chat.
Yeah, I think it's you're the only one that matters in the long run.
Turn off chat.
Just go have fun. Just play.
Be careful because it might become your whole life. In a good or a bad way, I mean, depending on how
Valid.
But
So valid.
All right. There we go. That wraps up our episode number 200. 200 Bonanza. Yeah, I had a lot of fun here. It was awesome getting to know about some of the MLA members. Connecting. I guess the two of you. I guess obviously, I don't think any of you have met each other before. Have you?
Nope.
I've never even talked to you, Nathan. I'm gonna need an autograph, sir.
Sure, we can organize that after this call.
Right.
Now, so.
The autograph
Yeah,
will be on the
celebrate.
paycheck we get, right?
Yeah.
Oh
that's right.
yeah.
Are you guys planning on cutting this down, or are we going to get the director's extended cut 3-hour episode?
No, this is 100%.
Nice.
There'll be no edit. Full 3 hours. So, yeah. Any sort of last comments, Curtis, before we wrap up?
That was great. I think that we just had so many awesome responses from everyone. Everyone had really awesome responses, and we just had such an engaged group. Everyone, contributing, and I appreciate you all being so open and transparent about your situation, and also as well not everyone. It felt like everyone genuinely was just saying how they felt. They weren't like getting influenced by other people, which is great. Awesome. Appreciate you all taking 3 hours out of your day for this. And yeah, that's awesome.
We're gamers, man. What's sitting down for 3 hours?
It's a Lord of the Rings movie.
I'm actually standing right now. I got tired of sitting.
I saw your desk go up, Zach. There.
Yeah.
I felt like I was
All right.
moving with you. It was a journey.
So good.
All right. Good work, guys. Let's keep on improving, and we'll see you guys next week.